Hey guys, yeah, 2 o'clock. How was your week? How was your month? We're heading into the final couple hours here of a brand new month to come on Monday. So we'll talk a little bit about the month that was. We'll talk a little bit about the week that was, including the Fed. I just checked both S&P and NASDAQ now above 4% on the week. So it is a very, very positive week. Trying to make it 2 in a row for the S&P, trying to make it 2 in a row for the NASDAQ as well. That's a look at where we're at right now. Back to session highs, essentially. S&P is 1.2 right now. We are coming off a little bit. The NASDAQ 1.5, 1.17 here in Toronto. The Dow lags ever so slightly, 0.64 to the upside, still crude. Yeah, back to 2.3%. We came off a bit, but the rally continues. About a half an hour left in the pit session for crude oil on the week and the month as well. Bitcoin, Ethereum, back in negative territory. That's a look at the board. Still some red on here. Communication services, healthcare, some of the consumer staple stocks, also consumer discretionary under pressure as well. That's Amazon, the only one really. Ford and Tesla positive, but Amazon really having a nice day, 11.5% off that report. There's all the energy names as well. A lot of strength coming from this group today. CVX and XOM, record quarters with what we saw in oil during the same period. So record quarters for both CVX and XOM. Pretty impressive day for energy stocks. Still the industrial group leading right now. Financials as well, very, very positive on the day. Individual banks, the diversified group, and insurance companies. Back to the upside. That's Intel in the semiconductor group in negative territory, down 8% on the day. The CEO, I saw a quote, said, yeah, the stock deserves to be punished today. Ouch. That's from the CEO. AMD, SEDG, Enphase as well, all back in positive territory. So that's how we start. The final 2 hours of the day looks like we're going to be able to chalk up another positive day and end off a positive week. As I said, 4.2% right now for the S&P, 4.4% for the NASDAQ heading into the final couple hours of July. Let's get into what we were talking about in the pre-market this morning. It has been a pretty good day as far as opportunities. If you're looking at PGY, if you're looking at crazy HKD, we'll talk about that coming up. A lot of low float type squeezes happening, typical for summertime. There was a lot of earnings to discuss as well. Neil is here to kick things off today with a look at one of his trades.
Your prime trade of the day is going to be on Amazon here. See what I did there? Look, sometimes it is about the best learning experience, because I'll tell you right now, I came in thinking one direction and was able to save a bit of coin by flipping in the other way. And it's all about being able to accept what is happening in the overall market. So as we set this one up, I want to keep in mind, yesterday you had a huge flush at the open overall in the market, had a lot of longs I was looking for, and had to flip to the shorts. That was a day saver. Today was a bit of a different story. Amazon may have been down on EPS and actually lost money, but that was because the Rivian loss. Really, it was a fantastic quarter, as reflected by the fact that they were gapping up. Since the split, maybe the biggest move you've seen, obviously, overnight, and you're going to see the humongous gap up. Now, on a Friday, end of week, end of month, travel so far, and in the pre-market, we're already heading to the downside. All I was thinking was gap fill. Gap fill was the first thing I wanted to see. I was looking at the 135 level. We're holding below that 135, started to slide down. You could start to see the selling come in, and I was working off of that short, right in front of 35, using 36 as a hard sort of stop there. The scalp trade was starting to work out. We start rolling down at the open, and this is where things get crazy. All of a sudden, right at 9:30, you start seeing, we call it like, quote, levitation, where you're moving down 40 cents at a time, up 50 pennies, down 60 cents. Really, you're just having big market orders come in, and there's almost no liquidity. So really difficult to read the tape in that point. So you have to take a step back and slow down. And one of the first things I saw was we then took out the 134 after a wick top. Like, you put a wick top through 135 and then take out 134. I was sitting on the bid and didn't have time to cancel my bid at that point, and was angry that I had gotten some shares out, because I'm like, oh, it's going to flush now. I'm thinking 130s. You just failed to break through the top. There's not a lot of liquidity. We're going downside for sure, and I'm going to be able to hold this for a bigger move. And then right after that, we then make this little consolidation bottom, and then you get this monster candle. Now you're a few minutes into the market when things have settled down, and then I'm taking that 134 up the you-know-what. Suddenly, this looks very different than it did a second ago. That is a usual bearish sign of which I'm expecting a consolidation at the next level down. I've seen wick-off tops when they trend to the downside. Almost never are you going to see that kind of a move back up, followed by another strong move into the high of the day. And this is where when I took that fill, immediately on the show, I was like, this short that we're rolling into, this looks like a wick bottom now. That wick top was a fail. On the bigger time frame look, when you zoom out a little bit, when you have a look at what's actually going on at that bottom, that is a wipeout bottom. It was a strong quarter, and the market looks strong. We're just going to have to accept this is not a short at this point. And I'm not waiting around. I'm just getting out at that top. I'm not going to wait for a better price and then work into along to the high of the day. It was that quick decision to say, this is not right. Now, the long only gives you 36, get a buck 50 into that high, never even takes out the high. But it's really more about preserving your capital in this situation. It would have been easy to average into the short, get back into the short, see this wick top, average into the short again because it put another wick high. What am I doing? Giving it to the high of this wick, just losing more money because I doubled up the shares, or giving it to the high a day even and losing even more money? No, let's not do that. Let's be able to accept the fact that it was a strong move. Yes, I do like mean reversion. Yes, I do think when you have a gap fill, if you see signs for that short, it makes sense to try and take a little bit of it. But if it wants to go up and the market's too strong and the name is too strong and it gives you a setup the other way, you've got to be able to take it off and preserve that capital. Ultimately, Amazon's up 12%, and it's a super strong name. You want to trade names like this, learn and do better with your trading. Well, Day Trade the World is the best place to do it. This trade of the day is sponsored by Day Trade the World. Check out that QR code below. Open up your office and see if you can hit some trades like this one.
Great day for Amazon coming off a monster report, absolutely monster report. It was not top of the list. Apple was top of the list today. Amazon was on there, though, definitely number 2, I think, on the watch list this morning. Make sure you grab that every single day, guys, before you join us then at 8:30, and we'll get you set for the open every day. All right, let's deal with this because it's still moving around here. There's a few of them to discuss. PGY, the latest. I just saw that MGAM just halted as well, another low float recent offering back to the upside. But the big one today, obviously, HKD, price-wise anyways, yeah, 500%. I think it's actually more than that now in 2 days. On this spin-off from AMTD Idea, which is amtd.ny, or you can have a look at HKD, which is, I mean, there's way too many letters. This is MGAM, looks like it reopened again, but we'll talk about HKD, guys. First off, 450.
Okay, first off, that is a lot of letters. There's no question about it. And look, you will see in the position board that I have a short on, and Arun needs to take a fill so we can see his positions. Just saying that out loud. You'll see that I'm in AMTD, and the reason for that is, well, if they own a gigantic stake in HKD, and I think at some point HKD is going to capitulate. On the midday show, there was a little discussion about whether it would close below 420 or above. I think we all said below 420. So whatever, I mean, betting against this thing's been wrong the entire way. Like, this stock has been an absolute runner. I'm trying to peel back this 3 minute as far as I can. $50 a few days ago. We got a high of 470. $469 it got to. But as it peeled back, and it cost $28 a share to short, I looked at this other one, which is apparently owns a big stake in it, which wasn't even breaking the high. Like, you were breaking out multiple times through the high of the day on HKD when AMTD was failing off the high and consolidating below $2. So every time it drops and a big capitulation happens in HKD or a big move down, this thing just falls. And when it moves up, tries to test the high, you're able to get some more shares in short. And it cost 3 cents a share to short this one, which is maybe a little bit pricey. So every single time I get in, I make sure I immediately pay for it the first time. And now I'm just sort of rolling. I've already paid for the shorts. I can now play this. It's a little bit like spread tradey, like you're getting 5-10 pennies on a $2 stock. We did get one flush of like 15 cents down there. And I am holding out for a bigger move, maybe back toward the low. it just goes to show sometimes there's a trade out there. And shout out to our community, because I remember yesterday we had one of our viewers point out, hey, by the way, check out AMTDY, which is barely moving despite their stake in this HKD. So we checked it out, realized it was true, and for some reason it had lagged the last couple of days. I mean, I can't explain why in the last couple of sessions after you've seen HKD make the move, it moved the first day, and then since then it's really only been sliding to the downside. So it tells me that no one actually believes this move in HKD is going to last. And if they don't think it's going to last, then they're not going to be willing to buy this up. I don't think you can hit a home run here. The float on AMTD is like a quarter of it was like 250 million, 260 million shares or something. So it's realistically not going to fall to like 80 cents. It's not going to pull back 150% or something ridiculous like 80% like you think we could see in HKD. But there's an actionable trade there. It forces me to watch HKD, but I'd rather put on a trade that I can structure and actually make sense of than force it into something that's just exciting and you see those dollar signs in there. If you got the long from early, congratulations for you. That was probably the way to go. Shorting it, probably too dangerous on HKD. That's why I'm over here.
Yeah, you're talking about HKD. I mean, what are you going to do? When a stock is doing what it's doing, it's a high risk, high reward situation. And if you're willing to play that game, obviously you're going to do well if you're right. But for me, I said it this morning, I am not going to get involved in something like that. It's easy trading at the beginning, right? Halts, up, all the way to 260, gap down. I think the best potential trade from the technical perspective that you could go with on HKD, and both Neil and I looked at this like, yeah, that's probably the easiest one, is that 260 break, right? That's where it halted just underneath before, creeped up all the way, finally broke through 260. You can argue for a long there. If you can find shares to get without paying too far out of the spread, then yeah, 260 long, that takes you right into 350. Easy, $100, $90, 90 to $100, depending on how you get out. And then you just watch the rest of it. And that's like after the fact too. You got to see it. You got to be willing to take that trade and then take the risk too. And at this point, it's getting late into the day. These guys are making calls on where is it going to close? Is it going to close up at 500? Everyone's making reads north of 500. And this thing is creeping down now. You could see a late session push to 500. We've seen that so many times in names that have been hot throughout the day, look like they're finally dying off, and then late session push takes you into brand new highs. So it does not mean it's over just yet, but definitely looks like it's getting some sell side pressure. As soon as we crack 450, looks like you can see the tops here. These are 5-minute bars. It does look like it's getting some sell side pressure for now. But again, with a name like this, and at this point, $28 a share to short to grab some locates, it might be a fun one to keep an eye on towards the end. It's an entertainment stock, at least for me. It's an entertainment stock. You watch this to get entertained because the market's not doing anything else. The market is doing something, clearly running up to the upside. But if you're bored, you take a look at something like this. Trading it, I don't know. But somebody in the chat was saying MGAM is halted. MGAM is halted. That's one of the other names that Brendan brought up. It halted at 1063. Looks like it wants to open at 1065, still moving around, volume still coming through, so that number will adjust, but definitely a lot of names to choose from. If you want to play that halt game, a lot of names to choose from that Brendan gave you.
Yeah, another recent spin-off as well, that MGAM, it would appear. Just watching Spotify, no reaction to this, but I just saw a note. TechCrunch, guys, reporting that TikTok is considering a music service, a music streaming service. So we'll see, I guess. Let's talk, what was the next one? Oh, Apple. Back to the downside ever so slightly today, but I mean, it's kind of a ho-hum kind of day. I mean, nothing terribly exciting with this report. Nothing terribly exciting with the reaction to the report. Some China concerns mentioned in the report, but hey, it's still Apple. I just double checked. It's 18.8% for the month of July on Apple.
Yeah, what a great bottom Apple put in. Just going back into like mid-June, I guess it was, like 120. You're able to get 130s on this thing, and now you're churning through the 200 period moving average up through 160. It's a great one. I'll admit to it. Like, I think Arun liked it earlier than I did, and it tried to break out. And I think this is where the market had some trouble and started to pull back. Is where Apple started to fail the top. It looked super strong there. We then put in a couple of higher lows, and this afternoon, as we crept toward the high, I'm like, well, Apple's going sideways. It was still a good quarter. we actually bounced off that 160 on the higher time frame that I liked this morning, and I'm just like, let's just take VWAP here. So I did work into this one. I got 62 and a quarter now. It can't seem to break through 63. That's because we have these highs in the futures. You know, the NASDAQ is at a triple top, and the ES just backed off of its high. There are several names which have been, you know, kind of teasing you near the top and then pulling back. Microsoft's still $1 from its high of the day. Amazon hasn't really been able to break out. So I think that's what's holding us back. Like, there's just a little hesitation in some of the big names to get through those highs, but there's also been a heck of a lot of buy support to make sure that we didn't actually break down and held those lows and put in a higher low overall. So I'm kind of sitting with the longs at this point. We can always see a Friday sell-off. We get back below VWAP, ES fails 4120, like you start lining these things up. I can believe in it, but we're going to close above the 200 period moving average. Pretty strong sign for one of the strongest and biggest names in the overall market. So I'm willing to take my shot here. I have been paying myself along the way. I think that's important. You're going to want to continue to do that in this market. We said that this morning. On the way to 63, I'm going to get some out. That way, on the way to the high of the day, if it doesn't break the high, well, I've already scalped out of this. So I can hold through a high of the day break. If it fails that high and comes back into 163, I don't have to worry about, getting out on the way down. I can then hold on to this trade for my top breaks. I'm going to sit with Apple here. If we break 62s, fair enough, then I can get out.
Apple's one of those names where this morning when we were looking, let's go long, we started working with the index names, the top index weights, because I couldn't grab it long on the index. So we had Amazon, we had Microsoft, both working well. Finally, Apple took out 163. We were like, okay, great. That's the entry on 163, and everything else was going, and Apple was just like sideways. And at that point, you're like, okay, Apple's the biggest weight. The market wants to go, but Apple's not going. It's going to drag the market down with it. Well, it's going to at least put some weight on the market. And as great as Amazon and Microsoft were, Apple did not work out, and you can start to see the weight coming in. So I'm like, let's just walk away from this flat. We walked away, covered the cost of the trade, the fees on the trade, and it fell off, bounced back up, and here we are sitting back around that 162.72. The problem is, though, when Apple doesn't get going, it keeps the NASDAQ from actually moving. So NASDAQ is only up 1.3, but it's up 1.3. Usually you know that 1.57, usually it's going to be a wide margin when it comes to between NASDAQ and S&P because of the weight of Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. If those three are going, then you're going to get some big movement. But Amazon's up 12%. Apple's up 3.4, but overnight. So you're not getting a lot of intraday action on Apple. So if Apple can get going, and technically it's set up to go, if it could just get going, then I think you're going to see this market accelerate some more. And we do have space, a little bit of space, but we are in a resistance zone on the NASDAQ futures as well. 13,000 is 70 points away. So we're still working inside that resistance zone. I'd be a little careful. If Apple can't get going and we're working in a resistance zone, at any point you can just, Apple decides to fall, market decides to go off the resistance level. So just keep in mind, 13,000 and Apple need to be moving together for this market to accelerate to the upside.
Alibaba, just noticing here, guys, on its way to fresh day lows. There we go. What a day for this. 10% now for Alibaba to the downside. We were talking about the Jack Ma Ant story a little bit. There's more regulatory speculation coming out, including regulators in the US today saying that Alibaba has now been added to the list of Chinese ADRs that could face delisting. So here we go right now, back to day lows.
Yeah, I think I mucked this one up to the short side. You'll see I traded it, and I liked Baba this morning. I probably mentioned it to you guys that, once it was breaking down, we've been shorting it almost every single day. And yesterday in the afternoon was about the only time that it showed enough strength. And this is what we're doing. I was trying to short it off of 100 right at the close. The irony of the fact that I was shorting Alibaba here at 100 and then it goes up and then gaps down, and I was trying to long Amazon in the afternoon, and then I end up with small losses on both of them, and both of them just gap in the other direction. That's how day trading works sometimes, right? It doesn't. If you're day trading, you got to be flat at the end of the day out of your position. It doesn't matter. You get the end of the day and you get punked. But I wanted to short off 95. Clearly, by being in Amazon and trading that at the open, it's going to have me miss out. It wasn't the only thing I was trading Amazon. I had 3 or 4 positions at the time. Intel was in there. I just end up missing out being able to short this one anywhere at the open off the 95 level. And once it was gone, all I could look for was the next breakdown, and that's what happened here. It broke down off this low after barcoding, and then once it made the next consolidation, I was playing that short, like 91s into 90.50, which also happened to be the SSR zone. Like, it got 10% when it hit 90.50. But then I shorted it on the way back up and stopped myself out really tight. Should have jumped right back in at this level. Like, see that 91.75 right in front of VWAP, wick top, that's where it broke down. This is where I should have jumped back into it. Now it's sitting off the lows where I really don't want to short. You know, look, if it would take something pretty crazy happening to the market downside, pulling back, for me to want to punch 90 short down 10%, not when the market is making tops. You can pretty much see the only thing I am short is literally related to HKD, which is up like a jillion percent, and everything else I'm in the longs until they stop working. So, you know, I'm not going to hit the short on BABA at 90, but if the market takes this up, I would short it off 92 in VWAP.
Yeah, and you were working with Bob. I was trying to work with PDD, and there was really nothing going. I was like, okay, well, potentially, I want to see the open. There's a decent chance that we get a flush to the upside. I don't want to get caught. I prefer to go on the short side. It was like 48.5. I'm like, I'm not going to chase into this. I want to see the open. And the open was messy, absolutely messy. And that's what you're going to get in a lot of these names. And we've seen it time and time again, especially on BABA. It gets real messy. You can see this move right here. The top was 49.20. The bottom was 47.60. Wide range. First 5 minutes, not even the first 5 minutes, we kept moving around. So we finally made a move north of 49 towards 50, broke 50, and then immediately fell apart again. Why would that be something relevant? You look back, gap sits right there, gap low. Going back to the 28th is sitting at about 51. No, not 51. It's about 50.31. No, the low is a 49.35. The close is 50.31, which sits just above 50. I would argue that this entire zone is going to be a problem. This pretty much from 50.50 into 50.75 all the way to 49.5. So that entire area is going to be absolutely messy to work with. So be aware that this is what BABA, PDD, JD, they're all doing some form of this type of trade. They're going to develop some levels and some gaps that you can work with to create breakout trades or whatnot. Today might be one of those days where the move may have been gone. You have to catch it. You have to be willing to sit in front of this absolutely messy mess of an open to catch the read. But it's going to be back in play at some point next week when these levels are tested once again. So definitely come back to them, mark the charts off, come back to them and see if you can find another trade, maybe north of 51.50 on a long, or maybe a resistance level short back when we get to 50, something like that. But definitely keep an eye on those levels because they will be in play once again.
It would appear the old school squeeze stocks want to get in on this action today as well. GME just popping up here on big pop to end off on a Friday, 2% now. Not seeing anything on this, but there is volume behind it, so we'll watch GME. Roku was on the watch list this morning as well. Big move down, opposite. Very, very negative for Roku. Didn't provide a guidance, not good. Wider loss as well for them.
Okay, I'll open it up by saying, and the caveat that I should have led with when talking about Roku this morning, despite the fact that I opened up with a long and actually had 2 longs to 1 short, when I think we talked about this, you each got to make a pick of a stock I think that would never get back to its all-time highs. Like, this stock has no chance to ever go to all-time highs or is done. Roku was actually my pick. So I don't really believe too much in the business model, despite what Kathy Wood might have to say about that. Maybe I just don't understand it, which is totally fair because I'm not going to pretend to be the smartest guy out there. But what I was thinking, despite only a 6% short interest, was this kind of a gap down. If we don't break the low, there's only one place to go. You know that line? I had a 63 bottom in the pre-market, kind of lined up with a resistance really, really late in the aftermarket there. But it also had this 65 level to contend with, especially, you looked at what was going on early in the pre-market action when volume started to taper into the open, and we reclaimed 65, and all I thought here was, okay, well, if you hold that level, if you now start to hold that level, I just want to long into the high of the day. So that's the logic behind what I think looked like a dumb trade, just going long in front of the 65 and getting insta-stop. Maybe I should have allowed it to test that low, and then I would never have gotten into the trade. I kind of decided to step in front because it broke back out right before the open. That's not really the way that's supposed to go. The way it's supposed to go is if it opens tests the low and doesn't go, then you grab the long. That's why I did it the wrong way around, took the hit. Then it took out that bottom at 63, at which point I'm like, okay, 63 is heading down maybe to that 60 level, that line in the sand we talked about. And then as it just kept on, like buyers stepping in at 62, I'm like, okay, take the first 50 cent, take the buck. Then rejects the low, whips right back up twice. Twice this thing on a 3-minute chart. First on the first 50 cents, it bounced to 63.5. Then when it goes $1 in the money, it bounces to 63.5 again. So when it comes back down to the low, I'm like, if it bounces, well, I mean, 63.5, that seems like failed break of the low, only one place to go, like we were saying before. So I get out of most of the trade down here at 62 this time, and then simply reverse at 63.50. Now the mistake that was obvious, and you can kind of see here, you always want to be pretty careful with your keystrokes. Like I'm usually going to get out in 2 or 3 shots, and I should have taken the second shot a little closer to 64.5 when it consolidated. I really didn't think that move was worth anything more than 66.50, and then maybe get a consolidation and a break of that. That's what we had talked about. So I got out too early, but the key thing is it's preservation of capital in that situation. Like you can like the short all you want, but once it breaks that 63.5, it was just like Amazon. You didn't have to go long, but you did need to get out of the short at that point. Maybe worth a reload when it got to 66 to go back towards shorting off the opening range high. I didn't do it. I don't want to touch it short here off the highs. It never broke the low. If anything, I think we're not going to see 63, but I think that's probably a decent long back at the place that we reversed it before. So it just comes down to these stocks, no matter how bad the report, no matter how much it's down, it's never as simple as just come in, punch short at any price and think it's going to work out for you. It's the same thing with a good report. You can't just be like, oh, well, the numbers were good. It was a great report. This is a good company. Punch long. It has to work. That is not how trading works, especially at 9:30 to 10 o'clock. That's the opposite at that time. It's about price action. It's about big order flow coming through and respecting what that order flow is telling you. And in this particular case, it did tell me to reverse the trade. So we had to listen to it, and we're able to make some coin on Roku, despite the fact that I do think this company is not very good.
I mean, we will. This is one of those trades where, like Neil said, just because it's down on the day doesn't mean you come in and expect a short to go well. It's one of those things where if a short were to continue on, you're going to see the action. There's going to be a lot of interest in the name. You're going to see attempts to move up that don't get anywhere, and those are the ones that you want to play. Roku coming into the day was doing pretty much this, flatlining around 63. 63 to 64 was just absolute flatline. After a move down, there should be a lot more action than that. So coming in, 60 was the only place I was willing to play. And I don't know what the risk is to the downside, or to the upside actually, if we were to go for the long. So back off. If you get to 60, I can make a play. I can either go for the short underneath or even go for a trap break from breaking the stops underneath. So long potential there. So it comes in, it starts going to 67, comes back down to 62, 63-ish, right back to where it's been spending most of its time in the pre-market. And then now it's bouncing back up. Like there really isn't a whole lot you can do. But the thing with this type of move is when it does this, it's creating a great base to work with when you decide to actually get the break, or whenever the stock decides to make a break, whether that's breaking it through the top that we spent all day today trying to put in, or the bottom, which is going to be 60. But now we're just kind of boxing in sideways. Let's just wait right here. Let Roku decide whether he wants to try and make a move back up towards the 80s, or if it's not going to go and just crack through 60. Either one is okay, but it's kind of a waste of money trying to play in between and try to catch longs and shorts, unless you're great at range trading, at which point you can either try to fade the longs around 66.50 into 68, and then try to grab longs around 62 into 60. That's, if you're great at that, I'm not the greatest at range trading, so I try not to do it. But if you're great at range trading, that's an option for you. But definitely Roku going sideways, not giving you a whole lot to work with. Quite the move overnight, but not much intraday, as it's back to now 65 and just flirting around.
Energy names popping up on volume once again. This is one of them. MAXN day highs here, up 25% on the day after what happened yesterday. Remember that bill set to be discussed, at least in Washington, coming up next week. We're hearing Wednesday or Thursday, possibly for a vote on that. So some of the clean energy names just getting going. We kicked things off at 2 o'clock with Amazon. But here we go again. Some volume coming back into Amazon as well. Still one of the leaders here this afternoon as we head into the, guys, final 90 minutes of the month of July.
I mean, Amazon's like, it's weird. Like, Amazon's up 12%. It was the trade of the day, mostly because I think it's more about, like, it's a teaching thing. It's the hot stock today. That's why we're going to talk about it. But I'm not in Amazon right now. Like, yes, Amazon's up that 12. Yes, it looks like it's moving higher. But I'm long Apple. I'm long Intel. I'm long Microsoft. I'm long Nvidia. It's just sometimes it comes down to, like, the setup. And I'll admit, like, I actually got back into this thing at 135 to the long and then just was like, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it. And there was a reload potential. So it's near that high, but I came back to the fact that it rejected the top. It went lower high, and then it's been going sideways. And I'm just going to juxtaposition that with something along the lines of, Apple had a good report. It's doing basically the same thing. You're seeing me kind of backing off, not adding to it a little bit here. And then Microsoft. Like, Microsoft, this is the one I'm a little bit more active with today, and sort of the one I think, if I have to pick one, that we have a real shot to go. Like, you've broken the high again on Microsoft. You've also made a higher low, but you didn't have any trouble getting through that top. You've already broken 280 and shown a willingness to go 281. You've broken through the last couple of days. I'll show it on the 15, man. Like, you've broken through multiple levels the last couple of days on the daily chart. And on your 15, it's almost like you're even coiling higher on something like a Microsoft. And it's also giving you, if looking at yesterday's top, pretty clean support off of like 278.5, 279. So I really like Microsoft. And then Nvidia, the reason for this, it'll look weird. Well, it doesn't look that weird on Nvidia because you're playing off of these highs the last couple of days. And the CHIPS bill got signed. Maybe it doesn't matter as much for them, as I've said before. But when you come to the daily chart on Nvidia, this is all I see. Look at this previous high at 181.50. And then it was about 181 the last couple of days, 180.5. But this 181.50, where is the next stop of consolidation? Like, the middle of that, midpoint's 190, top is 197. This has room to go. And I'm just talking about recovering. It's only just now bounced off the 50 period and is breaking out from this consolidation. That's why I like Nvidia today. Apple had the good report and is only up 3%. And looks about the same as Amazon on the chart. I'm like, which one do I think has more room if they take out the high? The one that's up 12% already. I know Apple's been strong recently, but I'm taking Apple here. I'm sticking with Nvidia and Micron. Intel was a reverse play. Like, if the short wasn't going to work, it's only one other place for it to go. So I did flip over on Intel.
Yeah, Amazon was one of those names where the setup was there early. I'll go through the setup. We had it this morning, and it was long off of this. Nice little spike down, breaking through 135 and just taking all the way down to 133 and then just do an absolute rebound. Caught the long on the move back up. Here we are long. After a crack 136 to the upside, I used that. I wasn't going to take 136. I used that on the way back down. Grab 135 halves, see if we can't get a move to the upside. And then it was great. It was delivering packages full of money. But 137 came into play. So $1.50 in the money, great. And then it starts to really slow down in terms of volume. Well, in terms of action, volume picks up. And here you are stabilizing, creating a decent resistance level around that 137, cash out. And then once you completely lost it, completely cashed out around 136. So average just over $1 out of both of those exits. And we're done. Now, would I want to play with this 137 once again? Absolutely not. Given what this market did, this stock did near this top around 137.50, not going to touch it, especially with the S&P futures putting in brand new highs. Apple's going sideways to not willing to break out. Amazon doing roughly the same thing. This market's being carried by other names. What's it being carried by? Let's just see. Tesla's up 3.89%. Google up 1.3%. Microsoft 1.4%. I'm not seeing a ton of superstar movement. I mean, NASDAQ's up 1.6%, but at the same time, Amazon's up 11%. So in terms of absolute movement, yeah, you're going to get that, what looks like a big move in across the board in not just the indexes, but in the individual names themselves in terms of percentages. But in terms of day trading moves or day moves, it's kind of gone sideways, right? And you can't deny the fact that Amazon was great in the morning, it has gone sideways, versus the S&P 500 has done this. has gone up, come back a little bit, and cut another bit and continue to its highs. So here we are kind of moving, like where's the movement in the NASDAQ as well? Because the NASDAQ is up, but I don't know, we're not getting the same kind of movement in the NASDAQ at the same severity. Yeah, sure, we came to 11.8 and then bounced all the way back to 11.950 now, but that 13,000 is sitting right there, and that 13,000 is going to be very important. And the reason this zone is highlighted, it's an area to watch. If you go back to the daily, it's a problem area that's been there since about March, right? Support around March, hesitation in early May, hesitation in June. Now here we are back to 13,000. It seems to be 13,000 is like an inflection point. And if we can get above it, we have space to the upside. Same way that 4,200 is going to be an inflection point on the S&P side of things. So definitely keep an eye on 13,000 on NASDAQ. If we can get Apple going, Microsoft going, you know that 13,000 is going. So Monday is a brand new month, first day of August, and we'll see if that 13,000 is going to hold up well or it's going to get broken. And if it breaks, August, who said that? You sell away in August and just kind of
well, it's
cash
usually
out.
sell in May and go away.
Sell in May and go away, but like
August is like the low volume month. It's when traders take time off. It's when traders get married. I know somebody who's taking time off in August.
It could be anybody.
Could be anybody, right?
It could be anybody.
Who's taking time off? We got a super chat here, and I don't know if you want to do me a favor. Bring up VIX. Can you do it on your? Because I know you got the e-signal up right there. Because the super chat, I want to make sure you get the name right here. If I can find it. It was Mohammed asking, do we think the VIX will bounce off a 20 support level? The logical thing going into the logical thing to think about going into the end of the month, when we've had a rally like this, is you could see some money come off the table at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if that would be the case, then you could maybe catch a little bit of a bounce here. So if you're talking about today, I think that's the case you'd be able to make. I mean, right now I'm literally sitting here all long. It's hard for me to say that I'm betting on that happening when we're just breaking out some of these tops. In general, I think that's maybe the kind of thing you're looking for next week, right? Like what's happened every single time we've had the 3 rate hikes has been, it looks good for a day or two, it looks fantastic for a day or two, and that ends up being a recent high and we press to the lows. This is the most bullish of those moves. So I would say if it doesn't make that, like if we don't see volatility push the next couple of days, maybe we are just headed higher for a little bit of a while. So I think I'd be looking for that on like a Monday or Tuesday thing. I'm not saying we can't have profit taking going into today. I'm clearly riding the longs until they stop working because I'm just going to go with the trend and we continue to take out highs. So I think you're waiting around for like mid next week, like Tuesday or Wednesday. You can look for something like that to happen because clearly we're doing a little bit better than the last time we had the rate hike from the Fed. A couple of things here quickly before we move on. This NA, someone asked in the chat when it's gonna, where I think it's gonna open up, and how do I know? I just see the indicated price is 773. It's a down halt this time, so it is coming back in. The IPO from earlier today, mobile esports gaming. Hope I got that right. MGAM. This halted to the, well, I mean, whatever. It halted to the downside and then opened up, reclaimed the highs, tried to take out 1250, pull back in, and now threatening the high of the day again. So up 190%, still looking incredibly strong. But I mean, everything is looking incredibly strong right now. And I look back over, yep, HKD still at $400. And the fact that that can continue to press up and AMTD never really goes against me, that just emboldens me, because the way I see it, if I'm sitting in AMTD short, and well, I should actually have HKD up when I say all this, if HKD does finally make a real move to the downside, imagine sitting here thinking when it pulls back $80, that's not a real move to the downside. But I'm talking about VWAP or better. Like if it halts to the downside, opens and fails again, and we're down at 200, then it's going to be a free trade at AMTD. As long as every time this pops up and threatens the high, I'm not even getting threatened on the short at 91. Like the high that is 08, and it won't even go to 2 on this other stock. So I can't get, like I'm not going to get a 50% retracement the way HKD could, or an 80% retracement the way HKD would. But what I can get is a good risk to reward trade. So I am watching this to make sure it doesn't do anything crazy. PGY is the other one here. And PGY still holding up. It's kind of, look, they're all low, kind of slowing down in terms of volume. Right now it feels like it's consolidating off 25. If you like a trade here, I think you're probably just playing off this consolidation maybe risk it to 25 even or 24.50 or something like that. And then you don't have to actually break the high of the day to take some out and pay yourself. And if it breaks the high and goes to 30 or 35, and Bob's your uncle, like you've actually managed to bank some. I don't like buying these this high, and I got enough longs here. I'm pretty happy with what we got. Nvidia's up at 182, so if it can take out that high, I think we're sitting pretty. Apple's in the money as well. The only long that is not working, well, I shouldn't say not working, but is not in the money deep is going to be Intel. So Intel's coming right back to that 36. That's the last dip buy I had. Since it took out that top, I was short all morning long, got wicked out once, got back into it, was playing it back into the lows, reloaded at 36. That didn't last very long. But once it broke out here, I just flipped to trading it to the long side. And I've had it a few times, 36.20, some 36s, some 36.20s, which is what I'm essentially holding right now, 36.23. So if it breaks down, I don't want to give it too much room. It was a garbage quarter. I had a rant about it this morning that I won't necessarily repeat. You guys can go back and check about it. It was a terrible quarter. And the CEO said it himself, the stock needs to be punished. What else do you need to hear other than that? Like, they've done absolutely everything wrong that you need, especially when you're trying to make a big change in a turnaround play. Core business, which is supposed to sustain you through like your big spending to be able to take on Samsung and TSM, and all of a sudden the core business is under pressure because you can't execute and your margins are absolutely garbage. Yeah, you're going to be down 9%. And on top of that, and now I am ranting about it, it is what it is. And on top of that, it was a 2% implied volatility, which is exactly what it should have been because nobody thought it could have been this bad, Pat Gelsinger. Brendan, what's up, buddy?
It's the former SPAC. Low float, late day runner strategy. That's what's up. SNTI, the latest candidate here, trying to get going through $3 again. Former SPAC, recently de-SPAC, low float. Breaking higher, guys, on volume.
That's what you got to be careful with. In a market like this where if you can get the entry, you're sitting pretty. Somebody in the chat was saying this. Like, it's one of those things where if you have the trade, it's an easy trade because now it's just trending in one direction. All you have to do is manage. If you're not in the trade, you can't get itchy to take another trade or find a trade because it's going to be very hard and very expensive. I've passed up on 2 opportunities right now, Nvidia, Google, both of them to the upside. I'm like, I'm not doing it. It's too late in the day. It's been trending up all day, at least since that first drop. And it's been somewhat positive for the last 2 days. It gets very dangerous on a Friday going into the end of the month to actually take a shot at the long on a new breakout to new high. So all I'm doing is managing what I've got. Disney, Nike, these are the 2 new positions we picked up. This morning we rode Apple, Apple is flat, but Microsoft and Amazon to wins. And now we're taking a run on Nike and Disney, and they're up 44 and 66 cents. Now I'm just gonna trail this out. No targets. When the market turns around, or if the market were to spin around and come back in, I'll just lock in whatever I've got in terms of trail stops, and then that's it. I'm not going to force anything, and that's what you got to kind of be very, very keen on doing if the day is somewhat slow. There's obviously things to watch that you're like, oh, I want to trade HKD. Very, very dangerous. Do you really want to lose that much money if you're wrong? That's up to you, but be very smart about what you do when the market's not giving you what you want. Are you going to force things, or are you just going to wait and see if something else pops in? And later on, something will. Of course, there's so many days to trade in a month. Just don't need to force everything or something every single day. So just be aware. There's like 22 trading days in a month. You don't need to trade all 22 of them. Just be smart about the ones you do trade, because if you're accurate, it develops confidence. And if you have the confidence, then you just need to be accurate 4 or 5 days out of the month, and you're good to go. That's it. So the way the market's been moving, it's cracked 30, comes back in. We're not even at 3 o'clock yet, so we don't even know if there's going to be some end of day selling to come through. So we're going to just keep an eye on this. Nike still up 40 cents, or not, up 64 cents. Disney still up 40 cents. Is there anything else for me to do? No. So I'm just going to go into the chat and see what else you guys are talking about that I can potentially look at from the chart side of things.
Well, this isn't the chart thing. Bob W., why is Fahad a flower girl? That's what I want to know. Fahad, who switches our show, for those of you that are tuning in the first time, he got some guff for bowling like a 53 or something and losing to our other production guy. I took the bet against Fahad, so I won. But either way, I don't know why he's a flower girl. But I wanted to, somebody tell me why that's true. But the other thing I wanted to say is what you just talked about, make money 4 or 5 times a day. There's something, I don't know if people, this may be too nerdy. You ever heard of the Pareto principle? It's like 80, whatever. It's like just it's a probability distribution thing. But as far as trading goes, the way it works is 80% of the money you make occurs on 20% of the trading days. 80% of the money you make comes in like 20% of the trading day in the day. And 80% of your P&L comes on like 20% of the actual physical trade. So even if you're like a heavy scalper making 100 trades a day, when you go back and look at your P&L, really you probably grab most of it from like that 1 in 5 of those trades. And then when you go back and look at your 20-day trading month, you look at the 4 days in the month, really that's where everything was. Everything else was kind of just noise, and you were probably flat those days. And all the best traders I know, that's usually what it looks like. So when you keep that in mind, and I'm not saying it has to be that way, but if you approach understanding that that's a truth that just exists statistically, generally speaking, because you'll get those outliers that really pay off for you. Like if you got HKD, then what does the rest of your month even matter for some people? So when you realize that's true going into it, then you can be a little bit more discretionary, understanding that, hey, what I need to not be doing is, when it is realistically that other 80% of the time, I can't be throwing things away. That's why you'll see me maybe trade 8 to 10 symbols in a day, and it's like I don't really care if I'm 10 for 10. What really matters to me is that if I shoot and then go like 3 for 10, I shouldn't realistically be down very much, because that just means I've lost too much on the ones that weren't setting up that well or didn't follow through. I managed to get myself out of the trade. That's why the reversal in Intel to not turn it into a mess and things like that. Like you've got to make sure that you understand where your big trades are going to come from, and it's going to be holding when the trend is going for you and not fighting things too far. So speaking about not fighting things too far, MGAM is halted again. So I think this is probably going to be a theme for the rest of the day if you're trading this. I don't know how big the float was for this. I just remember when I looked this up last week, and I thought for some reason it was going to IPO on Wednesday. And IPOs usually aren't on Friday. It's a Wednesday thing, but either for the decent ones anyways. But halting to the downside, I don't know what the float is, but I don't think it's a very large issue here. So it's probably going to halt a few more times in the line. It's indicating it's going to open $1 down from here. So if you are long this, just a little bit of a caution for you there that it looks like it's going to be a little bit weak on this reopen. What goes up often does come down, but I just keep looking at these and say, when was the last time one of these was a one-day trade? So I'm going to look at MGAM on Monday, and I'm going to be looking at it on Tuesday. And if I see it consolidate and there's an obvious breakout with a good risk to reward to the long side, well, maybe this time I'll actually nut up and take it instead of just watching HKD or the next one go along the lines. But it has to give you that setup, and we got to go be able to find it when these come up. Brendo?
SIGA halted downside here, guys. There's apparently an FDA note being circulated. I haven't actually seen it yet. We'll continue to look, but SIGA downside halt right now.
This is one of those moments that I wish I had paid for shorts in SIGA this morning, because I probably didn't. And now that it's done this, I guarantee you it's going to be like, because it's 2:47, we're almost in power hour. Like, I know, Arun, I know you don't like paying for shorts, but the truth is, when you're this late in the session and it's down that much, the idea that you're going to want them guaranteed because you pay for it, then it's a sunk cost. Like you pay for it.
Doesn't seem that expensive.
Well, maybe it's free. Oh, I ain't paying for it. So there's a cost that we get in our system.
I think it's free.
And if it's exactly 1 cent, period, then it might be free to short. So I'm thinking it might be free to short SIGA. Look, this stock has been high flying. So I'm not saying that it has to come down further than this, but there's room for it to go before it finds support. I would have thought naturally 15, 16, and then maybe coming in definitely 13. The previous high, if you go to the daily chart, that 1750 is more or less where we got to just now on the halt. So that first stop makes some logical sense to me. Watch out for SIGA. Lots of halts today. Going to be an interesting one here with just about an hour left in the market. It does come back, the market, a tiny bit. The NASDAQ took out the high and just a little bit of a pullback, but I'm still going with the longs. You can see the clean trend there on my 60-minute. Not broken just yet, Brennan.
Okay, so just reading this note from the FDA, they say it's important to note that they already have an FDA-approved vaccine for the prevention of monkeypox disease and an FDA-cleared diagnostic test. FDA says there is no FDA-approved or authorized medicine for the treatment of monkeypox disease, which makes sense for SIGA, which allegedly had one. So, I mean, they were essentially implying that smallpox vaccine and treatment was working, but I guess the FDA saying that is not the case.
I mean, did they expect that the regulator would be like, yeah, that's not true? Let's just keep this lie going, huh? Okay then, Siga, that's the one to watch. Right now, it's projected to open at 17.50, 9 cents from where it closed on 39,000 shares, just underneath 40,000 shares. We'll see how this actually opens up and whether it continues down. Actually, it's getting better, 17.45. So it is moving around a little bit, but keep an eye on Siga. It's free shares for us so far. Yeah, I'm sure that'll change once it opens,
well, we'll
because
see.
everyone's gonna
have it open.
Everyone's gonna go for it. But an important thing that I think everybody should want to know, and it's not stock related, it's about Fahad. He says, you know how he doesn't like to show his face? He's all about wearing hoodies and covering his face. He says that if you guys can get it to 10K likes in any stream, and this is a number that he's throwing out there because it can never be achieved, right? That's what he says. He will show his face. And now Prad, I'm just gonna warn Fahad, Prad did this on the other show with his platinum hair, and that's why he had to essentially go with 6 months worth of hair that was gonna be from platinum to gray, and now he's still refusing to, do it again. So just be aware, Fahad, 10K, you're setting the bar, and now the viewers know this, and they will keep you in check.
Come on,
They will keep you in check. Once they get to 10K, they're gonna remind you, Fahad, that your face has to be shown. So everyone can see, who is this guy that keeps losing to Lucas?
Hold up. I got a problem with this. First of all, look, you guys get us to 10K likes, and I'll be a happy camper. I think that would be amazing. We would appreciate it so much. There are 4,200 people watching the stream right now.
Oh, I know.
And I see all those screens there. Fahad knows that. He knows that's about right. So to throw that out there is ridiculous. I think if you had any stones, you'd throw a number like 2,500 out. Like if we got that ratio, then maybe that makes a little bit of sense, man. Like come on.
No, but he said
set a number that makes some sense.
He said
here.
He said any stream, so that could be the morning
What stream
show.
is on right now? Right now we are on the closing show
any
on Friday.
stream. So remind
if you want to
the
make
morning
that
stream.
comment, Fahad, step up to the plate, stop laughing, and say, "Oh, show your face." If we get to like 2,500 or 3,000, and give the viewers a chance to see the dude that thinks he can box a rune. Right? He thinks he can fight a rune in a ring. He thinks he can race me. He thought he could beat Lucas the first time ever bowling, and he bowled a 53. He talks a lot of game. I'd like to see you step up a little bit. Just gonna come here, just a second, Fahad. I'm trying to go over Nvidia. Nvidia's trying to get down to 181. I have a stop below 181 here. Sega just opened. Oh, let's see if it is. It's catching a bid, eh? Okay, we'll see. Do we have free shorts? That's the first thing I want to test. Do we actually have free shorts on it? Yes, we do. I'm thinking 19 is pretty much a no-brainer on this thing if it tries to break back to the upside. If it does try to go into an up halt and resist that halt, I would try to punch short, likely with a 19 stop. The fact that it's free might mean this could end up being a pretty crowded trade if it puts in a curl here on Sega. Yeah, now you can say whatever you're going to say in my ear there, Fahad.
Fahad told me, Fahad's still messing around, by the way. I mean, with stocks moving around, some stuff being quiet. I mean, obviously, Sega opened low. It opened at 17, I think, or actually put in a low at 17. Let me actually pull up the.
Looks like it opened 1750. Put in a low at 17.
That was a projected open,
and then got to 1850.
Yeah, it's just bouncing right off the bottom here. Sega, where did it open? I can't even tell at this point. But yeah, let's assume it's 1750. Oh, 1759. Okay, there you go. That was the last open. And now it's just it bounced all the way down to 17, now bounced all the way north of 18, now it's back to 18. And it's if you want action there. But Fahad, after, Neil called him out on his absolute nonsense, what stream is on right now? 4,200 views. He says if you guys can get it to 3K, new target for Fahad, 3K likes means that he wants to do like a boxing type face-off, at the pressers. He wants to do something like that at the bell at the end of the day. I mean, if you guys want to see that, go to 3K. I don't know why he wants to do that, but
I don't know what that would look like. What? So he's supposed to stand next to you with
half his face covered, yeah.
With half his face covered,
yeah.
So
He wants to hide his face
so that everybody can see exactly how ridiculous the comment of him trying to fight you is. Like, you don't see me doing that kind of stuff. Man. I'm just simply saying, actually, the weird thing about it is we probably couldn't have that boxing match because you guys are employees. If you actually hurt him, that would be a liability. So I'm not even sure we could do that fight. Stop, Fahad. Stop saying in my ear that you can hurt Arun, okay? We can't do it because...
We can sign waivers, Fahad.
If you get waivers, if he gets concussed, that's a lawsuit, dude. You can't... If you hit him one time, it's over. You will break him in two. I'm actually trying to help you, Fahad. I really am. Because I think you've bit off more than you can chew.
To be fair, though, I would never do it. just because he's got a kid, and I don't want any guilt behind that. So Fahad, that's never going to happen. That's not going to happen.
And that's why, honestly, that's why you're such a nice guy, Arun. Because you actually care about people. Oh, give me a break. I just missed the curl on this thing on Siga. I try to do two things at once here, but I wanted it, look, I wanted this trade somewhere, I said this, I didn't want this below 18. Like, I actually wanted it off of 18, somewhere where I could at least give it to 50s or 19, not a 17, 20 short. It just tried to, I mean, absolutely flush off of an 18 break, and then you saw the offer stack up. It managed to bounce a little bit here. It might be that 18 is the play on this thing. I'm trying to get 25s here and give it to the 1850 level. I might even just get my stop in, just so if I get the fill, I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to throw my stop just so I'm already locked and loaded and ready to go. If I actually do catch this anywhere above that 18 to the short side, then I'm locked and loaded. Siga looks like it's going to fall here. I should have just grabbed it where I could. By the way, just in case you're watching, a little bit of an interesting move. I got to go to AMTD for a quick second here because now this isn't making bloody sense to me. I am now, this stock had not threatened the high at any point, and now it's pressing higher while this is happening on HKD. Like HKD, which is supposed to be, you know, we had some kind of relationship here, which is still, it's holding 400, but you're actually seeing people start to buy up AMTD here, despite the fact that this isn't going up. So we have to watch this a little bit. I'm still holding just under half the position that I took. So, you know, that's, I could have taken more of this out each time it flushed, but, you know, I kept thinking, if it goes late day flush in HKD, I just want to make sure I have enough on board to have made it worth my while. That's why I'm holding on to AMTD. It looks like Siga's going to get away from me a little bit there. Still not going to be able to get into that trade. Look at the wick top that it put in. It never got to 19. 1850 is your high. It looks like it's going down to the doldrums. As the market is trying to take out the tops, like Softy, $1.40 in the money. We're holding Apple only 40 cents. Same thing with Nvidia. Haven't been stopped out yet in Intel. And here I am trying to short Siga, and I can't get it to go. And African Emporium, I have $2 on Fahad to run the entire boxing match. I mean, look, that's a reasonable thesis that he would just try to run around the ring. But the other problem is, well, Arun played football in college too, so he's just quicker and faster, even though he's also bigger. So you can't run from him either, Fahad.
Well, we can play
this
football
is the problem
if
with
he wants.
it. Oh, you didn't hear about the football?
Oh, no.
So Arun didn't hear about the football thing either.
Oh,
that Fahad said if we play flag football, which has been discussed, that he would lock me down the entire game because he's a good cornerback.
You know what's funny about all of this? In between shows, I asked Fahad, I'm like, because of the boxing thing, I'm like, hey, what's your conditioning like? And he's like, oh, it ain't that good. I'm like, how are you gonna last at least even 3 rounds, man? Come on, like, I'll let you burn out in the first round.
I'm a fresh dad, right? I took some time off. I'm back.
All right, so Fahad just wants to challenge everybody to something just to create drama around here.
Honestly,
and now it's just,
you know what I'm waiting for to happen?
Yeah.
Like, someone's going to say something in the chat. We're going to be like, this person said this about you, Fahad. And then he's going to challenge a viewer. And then someone's going to, like, come to Toronto and just, like, whoop his butt at something. And then that's just going to be it right there. Like, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for, like,
no, you know what it is? Fahad's one of those guys that even if you beat him, he's just going to lay there and keep talking trash. I've run into many guys like you.
Yeah,
man.
the lines
surprising.
on the lane weren't straight. I couldn't use the fingers on the ball properly. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I've seen kids bowl better than 53. Actually true, by the way. I've seen. No, I mean, I'm not saying that. Well, okay, fine. I was saying that to be mean, but I do know some kids that have bowled better than that, and they didn't need the guards either. They were able to do it. It's pretty impressive because the bowling ball is pretty heavy, so being able to do that is pretty impressive. I'm sitting here staring at Siga just falling, and when I tried to grab that and I wanted above 18, I should have just taken it. This is going to halt down. It looks like we're probably going to get a halt down. I do have to watch my AMTD. That's starting to creep a little bit higher, up to 195. But Siga is just dying. Mr. Miyagi, just thank you for the super chat. $5 says Fahad has never had a fight in his life.
You are wrong, sir.
No, he's probably fought.
He's fought, yeah.
If you talk as much trash as Fahad, you've probably gotten into a fight in your life for sure because you probably said it to the wrong person, and then you know what happens.
Yeah, he's told me a couple times. He's been more than one, but
Stop.
it's just one of those things where Fahad is good. If Fahad fights like the way Siga trades, it is just absolutely cratering down to the floor. Because here is Siga now at 15.57, probably going to get halted as it's moving through. No, 45. Yeah, they're probably going to halt it at 45. Can they halt it? They might. It might be halting very, very soon. Right here at 45, yeah, they're probably going to halt this at 45. Come on, let's just go, just for the sake of entertainment, so I can say that I'm right on the show. Come on, just do it. Let's go, 45.
You know what would be dumb is trying to short
There
it
we
down
go.
here. Did I get
Finally,
it?
45 done on
I got
SIGA. So 1545 is the halt on SIGA. After you were just, weren't you in this one?
Okay. Well, first of all, while all that was going on, and thank you guys for constantly putting that in my ear, because like all the trash talk, we have an earpiece on, and everything from Rob and Fahad and the ones and twos is coming through as they're talking. I tried to get it short on this curl, I just wasn't aggressive enough. Now I'm just doing the halt play, which is, well, it goes into the halt, take something on the fill, take a little bit out on the open, and then see if you can ride it even lower. I think that's pretty bad news. I already said, I think once you take this out here, that we have a chance to get down to 13. So in my estimation, there's still some downside left. So I am short 45s. In an abundance of caution with a trade like this, I will always take something out at the open, but not all of it. So when it reopens, I'll use a limit on open order, or market on open order for a portion of the position, and then try to hold on to the rest of this. So SIGA headed to the downside, and I missed it at 18. Maybe somebody got it. I can't believe it was free. And yes, SIGA may go up. But a lot of times when I've seen news like this, if it doesn't catch a bid off the first, sometimes we've seen it fall multiple times here. And I will be covering some, to be sure, right away at that open. And then from there, once it opens up, I'll probably throw a quick stop in. No worse than 16.50, I think. I don't want to be losing more than $1 on the trade.
Oh yeah, you ran right into the halt. I mean, right now it looks like it's
Well,
going
it's
to
only
open at
prices
least
again.
45. Yeah, at least 45 cents. Right now, projected open is at 15. But again, it just halted, so that number is going to change around. But right now, 15 on 45,000 shares is roughly the projected open off this halt imbalance. But it's going to be, what's the situation with halt? Is it always 5, or does it become 10 after a few?
So it's, you know what's weird? It is, I should go read it again, because I know it's 5 or 10, but it's almost always 5. And why it's 10, something I think has to do with how far it went, the percentage move. But I always felt that the only reason it should be 10 over 5 is they just can't find enough liquidity after 5 minutes, right? So I think that's probably going to be the case, but we'll see what happens. I am expecting 5 minutes, and if it doesn't open in 5, then that just means it's 10. We're early enough. It's only 3 o'clock. I'm not worried about it not opening up. I was trapped once live on the show. I was in Spirit Airlines, and I was trading that after a late halt, and they halted it a second time late in the day when I was still in a piece of the long, and then they just didn't open back up because it was news-based, and then I had to hold it overnight, and that kind of sucked. But because it was a winning trade, that's what was pissed off, and I took a hit on the last of it. So I'll get my order out there. I'll take some out on the open, and then we'll see what happens with the rest.
Yeah. Okay, 1545. Looks like SIGA wants to open back up at 1545. So, hey, look at that number already changed back to the closing price. Somebody was asking, it depends on the halt code. It does and it doesn't. If it's a volatility halt, it can be either 5 or 10.
Yeah.
So you don't know which one. After the first 5 minutes, if it doesn't open, you're like, oh, it's probably 10. If it's news-based and stuff like that, then you'll understand based on the halt code, it's probably not going to have a time. When the news is released, they'll kind of let you know that the halt is about to open, or stock's about to open back up. But as entertaining as talking trash with Fahad and watching SIGA hit the floor, it's, for me, the money's being made on Nike and Disney. We've been in this. We're just letting it go. You see Nike. This is going to be the easiest. One of those trades where you just get in and you're just like, okay, let's go. And it just keeps going. This is Nike for you right here. North of 113.50, comes up, bounces back down a little bit, grabbed it on the way back down. So you can definitely see the timing of this, right? It went all the way to 113.90. I picked it up on the way back down to 113.50. And here it is now sitting at 114.5. So we're about $1 in on Nike here, and it's just trending. There's nothing to do. Apple's going to?
No, I mean, everything's everything is working.
Futures
Apple's okay. Microsoft is still trading nicely, but I got to do this one, man. I talk about opportunity cost all the time, right? There's only so many trades you can make in life. There's only so much bandwidth you have. You can waste your time on a bunch of things that don't matter to you. All that is true. So I kept talking about AMTD not taking out the highs because HKD doesn't either. And no stress trade, instead of trying to figure out how I can get into SIGA and ultimately missing it until I get the bottom, shorting at the bottom, that's great. You could have just reloaded this. Like every time it's gotten to $2, it's been a fade back into VWAP. Like give me a break. Like that's, 195, 190s or 95s are the only two shorts I've had. That's paying you to 85s in the scalp trade. It's done 27 million. Yeah, the volume's not what it was earlier, but come on, like that's relatively low hanging fruit as long as I check notes, see that HKD is not making new highs. And even if it does, when it's made new highs, this still hasn't opened up any crazier. So SIGA does open the wrong way. Well, kind of. Flip. There we go. It opens essentially flat.
Yeah.
Now it's going to the downside, so all I got to do is put in my trailing stop and see how far it wants to go. So this is SIGA. It could halt down again. Ooh, I should definitely take something out at 1450. I was just sort of thinking about or in front of 1450. It's catching a bit at 15 even. Last thing I wanted to do was jailbreak on me. So it was about 1450, and immediately I was like, oh, let's take some out if it goes to that price because I don't want to get absolutely caught with this at the low. And then I saw the bid. It made some sense there. 16 was the area that I kind of thought I'd go 10% from that price. And then all of a sudden you see it catch that bid. If it tries to load up at 15 even, I'm going to take profit. Now I'm just going to hold on for dear life. So I've paid myself twice on the reopen. Now I can think about 13 here. And because I thought 13 would be a bottom, I'm just going to try to get out at 13. It might halt on the way down to that price and I'll hold through, but I am thinking about 13, whether it goes down without a halt or it gives it to us. And keep in mind, like I'm a little frustrated over this for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted the short up here, right? So this is a frustrating play. And the reason for that is if you take the short up here, then I'm not necessarily doing this. Like it's two halts down, it's a 15 even dollar. What I don't want to happen is have it jailbreak up when it's already given off like 40 something percent, or like, what is it, like 30 something percent off of that consolidation. Like that's the problem. When you're short up here, you're getting out here, you're getting out here, you're getting out here. When I'm short there, I'm a little afraid of giving up too much profit, and it just bounced off my order 13 1/4, which is kind of annoying. So it looks like it caught a bid there. Broke 1350. SIGA's still working to the downside. I'm going to tighten up a trail with this. I don't need it back above 15. I should have just taken like 1375. SIGA going absolutely nuts. It might not be done. Maybe it goes to $10 here today. But I think there's going to be some people that want to catch a falling sword. And the last thing I want is for it to halt up. And I'm still in the short trade. So I got to be very, very careful with this. Because bouncing off 13, suddenly it could open itself up to a halt. And there's no chance I want it halting up on me. A lot of times that's jailbreak city.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice that some stocks are starting to slow down. Disney specifically, one of the names that I have, working around that 106. We're up 36 cents on Disney. Do I want to keep playing Disney when it's starting to stall out? No, not really. I can start taking some of this out just so I can actually work and exit and actually lock in some of this. My trail stop is in the event that we break through 80. I'll lock in, about 20 cents, 25 cents or so. So if we get through 80, I'll lock some in. But I'm also looking to get some exits here in the 90s going up to 106. So starting to lock some profit in. Nike is the other one. I'm just like wondering, like, do I even need to take a shot at Nike for an exit? It's the way it's been moving up. The only concern I have with Nike is that because of the way it moved up, as great as it is for a long, it is horrendous to be able to manage because it's one of those things where it's not at a round number, it's just trending up. I can't put a trail stop in here, so I don't know how far it needs to go down before the trend can continue, and it's late into the day with about 40, just over 50 minutes left. Do I want to take a chance on just holding and seeing if it can actually get to 115? So Nike is one of those things where I'm keeping a very close eye on it. If it starts to even just taper off even a little bit, I think we're going to take some off of Nike. We've had a good run with it. It's $1.01 in the money right now, and still looking good. But at the same time, when you get late into the session, you've got one crazy rally when you get a move in one direction that hasn't slowed down since that 4,100 bounce. It could get dicey in the event that it decides to come down. So we'll be smart about it and how we trade Nike. But okay, there we go. We got some exits on Disney here. There's your exit on Disney for some of it. We'll carry the rest. We'll let it play out, see if it wants to go through 106. Now that I've gotten some out on Disney, I can actually just let it go and be like, you know what? We're gonna trail this. I don't mind trailing this because at this point, if I get out in the mid 90s and I get out south of 80, my average exit's gonna be somewhere in the 80s, which is about a 30 something cent winner. I'm cool with that. That's fine. I just want to give it a chance to see if we can actually put in new highs. The market says that we can. Market's at 1.8% on the NASDAQ and 1.5% on the ES. So it says that we have strength. Let's just see if we can actually get going.
So looks like I got out of Sega just in time. But instead of celebrating that, I just got to point out that, Arun, this is what Fahad just posted in the chat. And I think he was talking about like smack the life out of each other with tortillas, and then he put this slap thing in there. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what you use. Fahad, you are literally setting yourself up for failure at this particular point. Like, you could do like a front hand, backhand. Like, if he slaps you, it's still a concussion. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those slap competitions. It doesn't make a difference. There's actual slap. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. There's actual slap competitions.
I've seen some of those videos.
And if you see the dudes, they smack the living shit out of, like, it's just.
How is that not concussion?
People get concussed in it. I don't think Fahad understands what he's talking about when he keeps on talking all of this smack. Like, he will put you in the hospital, and I like you, you're a nice guy. We don't want to see it happen. Plus, too, like, Lucas has been taking time off. Who's going to switch the show if you get hurt? I'm a little bit worried about Nvidia here. Nvidia, it quote levitated when it broke out. And I was looking at the 185 breakout on the daily. That's why I have such a crappy entry on a 3-minute chart. But on the daily chart, it looks a heck of a lot better. But really, this is where it broke out, 180.50, like $1 away. So I thought we could actually hold support above that price at 81. Suddenly, you're trending down despite the fact, checks notes, ES at high of the day, NASDAQ at high of the day, Nvidia giving it up. I'm going to have to trail out of this. I do have a stop below here, so if it gets below, I think it's like the quarters, probably the 80s or the quarters. If he gets below that, I just have to trail out of it, Nvidia here. Not really seeing the strength I would have liked to see. And this is, you got to take out the trades that aren't working for you and just accept that that's the way it is. Like Microsoft here, you know, if I zoom in, maybe it gets rid of that way. Microsoft here off of VWAP, well, it's almost $2 in the money near the high of the day, right? Like Apple's not there, but it's at least stronger. And Nvidia looks like it wants to fail. Hopefully it can hold out around this 181, and then we can ride this into the close. But at this point, I just got to accept that it's looking relatively weak. I did get trailed out of Intel. Which, there's your logic right there. I trail out of the Intel long, and that's actually bouncing back up, but Nvidia wants to stop me out? Really? Does that make any sense? So maybe I just don't need to trade the chips at the end of the day, because that makes no damn sense. If Intel's breaking here, Nvidia wants to come down, Intel should be down at VWAP at this point. Or maybe they just sold it so much that there's nothing left to do. AMD, which I did trade AMD today. It was weird. Like, when it took out the high, I liked the daily chart on Nvidia more than AMD, but I was scalping AMD earlier and probably didn't like it enough. As you can see, I wasn't nearly bullish enough because the last trade I have, and I'm still on the bid at 92, was playing 92 in a VWAP. It was just trending down, so I kept scalping it for like 50 to 60 cents or whatever it was, and then didn't give it any more room. That's Sean's thing. Like, Sean loves to hold in AMD here, and today, for whatever reason, I just didn't feel it was going to be as strong on the top break as Nvidia. But you just saw Nvidia breaking down. Accept that fact. My stop is in place. AMD at the high of the day. So guess what? Which one is it going to be for the close? It's got to be maybe AMD breaking out of the top if the market continues to go. I haven't talked about Tesla once, which is a damn shame because it's at $881. Strong move for Tesla. Looks like 885 might happen. I wasn't joking about it this morning being the next resistance level, but obviously the joke's on me because it's about one of the only things I haven't tried long today, Brendan.
Yeah, and that was the best one. I mean, Friday afternoon, you know, middle of the summer, kind of a quiet market. Anything with a float under 10 million is fair game, it would appear. Here's MAIA, day number 2 on this one. It's already halted a couple of times, but MAIA is starting to go.
Maya. Okay, we're just coming up with names, just random names that we're just going to run up at the end of the day. It's the last day of the month, too, so you know there's going to be a ton of action.
Yep.
I've already worked on Disney on the exit, north of 90. We talked about that one. I also worked an exit here on Nike. I'm like, you know what, 50, just over 50 was good. I'm cool with that. We'll lock in as much as possible, and we'll just let the rest go and see if we can actually take it into the imbalance. Imbalances are coming out in about 40 minutes, just under 40 minutes or so, just to see what we can get with that. In the event it's a buy-side imbalance, then we can get a nice slow push towards the end of the day as well. Going back to the tortilla thing, I've never heard of this tortilla challenge, supposedly. I thought it was like a tortilla eating challenge, which I was very, very happy with because, Fahad, you don't want to bring food around me, man. Like, I will. You want to slap me with a tortilla? I'll eat that tortilla before you can get your hand away. So I'm just saying, like, I will. No, don't bring food around me. I love to eat. I work out to make sure I can eat, so it's all good. But the futures market doesn't want to come down. I can't eat there. There's no money to be made on the futures market at this point. You have to do it earlier to make your money. And it seems like that's the case for most trading, and that's the thing you're going to have to understand too with summertime trading is a lot of the moves, once they're gone, right? You can't really force your hand at that point. So if you can catch them in summertime, and if for anyone who wants to, you don't have to spend all day trading either. Morning action you're going to get. Probably, I would argue, after the next week and a half, as soon as you get into mid-August, things should start really slowing down. It might get a lot more quieter. So once you get your morning action in, you don't feel guilty about just walking away from the screen because you're probably going to just lose more money if you sit all day trying to trade the entire day. It's just smarter to kind of work certain high active periods, maybe the first 90 minutes, the final 90 minutes or so, something like that. You just got to be a little bit different than you normally would be because September, like late September is different from mid-August because volume is just completely dried up, right? So just be smart about how you decide to trade and when you decide to put risk on because summertime trading is quite different because volatility really dies down. So you got to be on top of your game when it comes to risk reward, pricing, stock selection. Everything has to just be absolutely on point for you to actually do well in this market.
So we've been talking a lot about boxing because Fahad. And Stephen Ford just made this comment, which I love. And to be honest, you're right about this. I have no problem saying it. I appreciate the comment. He says, Neil Roberts is the Mayweather of stocks, which is a compliment, but then he wins a lot but runs too much, which is, look, people say about Floyd is that he's too defensive, it's not exciting as a fighter. Now, all jokes aside,
that's like
the reason that there's truth to that, and I put this in the chat, but I'll say it for everyone else that maybe isn't following it, is when I started trading, when I started as a momentum trader, I was okay. I couldn't graduate. Here you have to make a certain amount a month to graduate and actually get paid out a percentage on the prop floor. So I was able to make a little bit, but I couldn't hit graduation in the first couple of months despite being positive. And it was suggested to me based on the style that I try to trade like spread trading and small caps and penny stocks. And then I graduated like my first month trying that. And then my second month, I was able to triple up. And the reason was, trading those types of names, it was really more about when you're wrong, not getting destroyed, and when you're right, just sort of like working with the trend and being able to be effective with it. And it's like, as long as you can manage to control your losses when you're wrong, that's how you made your money. So I was always trying to avoid the death trade. Because when you're trading a penny stock, the notion, or when I trade like a buyout or spread trading, like you're trading more shares when you're anticipating a range, and if the range breaks and you're the last person without a chair, you are destroyed. Like there were months where what could happen, your entire month could go in a single day when you're trading that style. And it's not different from trading these small caps. And that's why I always fall back on being a little bit more defensive with my trading and having a tighter stop because I'm always thinking, I don't want that trade to ruin me. So you will see me, even that Sega trade, right? Like it was a little bit too pensive, maybe getting into, if we can pull the chart, maybe I was definitely too pensive getting into it. Like I should have been a bit more aggressive, a little bit more aggression, and I catch this, no problem. And then even on the way out, I could have maybe spread this a bit different, maybe eked out an extra 30 or 40 cents on each one of those trades. But here's the thing. I'm pretty much there is no way that it would have made, let's say it doesn't get through 14. There's pretty much no chance I'm not going to find my way out of this and the bulk of the trade I'm losing on. That's my style of trading. And you've just got to do what works for you. There is no such thing as the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it. There is a way to do it that makes money for you, and there is nothing else. I learned that lesson very early on because I was very lucky to learn that lesson. And you've got to be humble enough, A, to accept the trader that you are, B, not to care about the fact that others are like, well, that's not real trading. Oh, you never hold for the big. Who cares? Who cares? And if somebody calls you, and somebody says to you, like, if you just sit there and you take too many risks and you're just a gunslinger, well, if you make money, then does it really matter at the end of the day? So do whatever works for you. I didn't hear what you just said, Fahad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, what's going on with the chat? Someone True Trading Group just gifting out memberships. Shout out to you guys. We got a ton of new members courtesy of True Trading Group. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for that. And that's a new thing on YouTube where you can gift out the membership, which is pretty cool. But I will say this, I actually discovered this after the last time it happened. When you log into the chat the first time or you pop into the stream, like you have to enable allow accepting gifts. So if you don't do that, then you can't claim like the 50 free memberships. But that's super cool, man. Or man or woman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. True Trading Group, thank you so much for doing that. Like, we've been doing this for a very long time, and all of us have our own different trading styles. And it's not to say that we'd be talking this much, but on a Friday, at lunchtime, yeah, we'd be probably discussing things and having a little bit of fun and talking shop. Traders love to talk shop. I don't know a trader that doesn't. And that's essentially what we're all about here. So we're just glad we have a big enough community that everyone can have fun in it. And, you know, lo and behold, Sega's bouncing here. Maybe not too bad. It didn't get stopped out at Nvidia, so that's kind of okay. AMTD's interesting. All four of us, and when I say all four, I guarantee you Sean would have said the same thing, and I'm sure Brendan piped in as well. When we talked about will we close above or below 420 on HKD, it looks like the below is going to win. However, I am very, very impressed with the fact that this is failing to make new highs, but it just won't give up.
Nope.
That's what's weird about this. If you've been trading long enough, I think you understand that the longer this holds the high, for the people that have YOLO shorts in this and are like, I got this by the you-know-what, I'm short at 450, I took my shot that it wouldn't break 500. Somebody sitting in that short, the longer it holds up here, the more nervous they get. It's not me, but trust me, there are people in that short that are like, why is this not at 200 yet? Why is this not at VWAP yet? I'm asking myself the same question. Why is this not falling? Who knows? Is it buoyed by the market? Maybe it's all these small caps going. Maybe it's the fact that, I was going to say maybe it's the fact that Sympathy GME was going to the upside, but that's already died. Now the memberships are coming in. We love you guys. Thank you so much. New members, accept those memberships. Join the party. Tell your friends all about it. If you enjoy the show, pass it on. We love to learn from each other. At least once a day, true story, at least once a day, someone will suggest a symbol that I was not paying enough attention to and I'm able to get it. I missed Alibaba this morning. I was messaged in the chat in the midday, Neil, I hope you got that Alibaba short when it did this. Right? I've traded like 10 stocks today, and Baba had not been one of them. Someone in the chat literally called me out and said, Neil, I hope you're in this short. And then the short that I did take on Baba was constructed off that. That's the value of the community, that you're able to sort of, they just knew that that's actually a style of trade that I would like. Oh, it does that breakdown, I'm probably going to want to short it off those levels. It's that simple. And so hopefully that's the kind of thing we can all learn from. That's why we do this. Tesla's still an absolute gong show here at these highs. I can't go long Tesla up here because I said this week that 885 was about that top. I really don't like the notion of going short at the high of the day. Not into something this strong. If I was going to do a short at the high of the day, this is where I wanted it to be. It was going to be in First Solar. I actually had the short in First Solar. Like it was at 13%, but here we go. Let's show you the daily chart. Like this is what I wanted to try to short at the tops. FSLR, another one of these clean energy plays, just going absolutely nuts. Made a double top at 100. I just wanted to see it fail the high even a little bit. And then I jumped into the short trade. Didn't end up working out. Maybe I was too early, but if this gets back up to the top, I could look at something like this. I could see people taking profit in these names here. I see your Disney still going. You know the funny thing about this? When you got the Disney trade, he was like, you might want to look at Disney for the long. I'm like, yeah, I'm already in for. And yeah, I probably should have taken it too.
I mean, that's always the case when you miss out and it just continues on, right? But that's how trading goes. Regarding the show, like, I mean, obviously end of July, August is going to be summertime stuff, but always improvements being made on the show, right? So August might be a little different than from what you're used to. So things are being moved around, things are being improved for you guys, and hopefully that makes a big difference in terms of the show's popularity, because from what I understand, especially from people outside of the show, is like, oh, well, there isn't really a whole lot that are very similar in terms of just trading. Brendan's ability to bring news on pretty much as soon as it comes out with his setup there with Icon. So it's a very helpful thing for us if you guys were able to just get the word out. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of from the memberships that were gifted, but there's a ton of places that I'm sure we don't know about yet. How do we get the word out that, hey, this show exists? From everything we understand from the people that are watching this show, that it is not like other shows that are available on YouTube. So it doesn't really, it'd be great if you guys can just get the word out. We don't know how to go about it. This is just something that was initially built in-house for, you know, I know you know the story. Sean's kind of with he worked with them as well. It was built in-house for the rest of the offices that we have globally, right? And then just turn into something else. So it's always going to be, grab us some input, send some suggestions if you have that can help us improve, and also just get the word out so we can grab more viewers and hopefully get that 10K so Fahad can actually, you know, do what he said he promised he was going to do, because we do need more viewers to get that like count going up to 10K. It may not be for the, maybe for now, not the afternoon, not today, but it's meant to be as a goal, and I just don't want the viewers to forget that he opened his mouth and said this, because it's easy for guys like him to run his mouth so much that you forget what he said at the beginning.
It is.
But you guys don't forget, because it's forever immortalized on July 31st in this video, and it's being recorded and will be posted. And you can timestamp it, and you can remember, hey, Fahad, you said this.
You did. And for the record, like what I like about this, like it's easier going in the market when you can just sort of do that work. It did. So it's easier going when you're sitting in the longs and everything's trending to the upside. So you can just sort of work them, manage them. Be concerned about 350 when it comes. Thank you, Karen, for the super chat. Look, we give as much information as possible. Suggestions on things that we can tell you guys or maybe do for you is great, and to the best of our abilities, we will. There was a good question there. Someone asked me. I usually answer in the chat if I can, but just for those that aren't in it, I'll answer it here. Someone asked, like, why are you on a prop floor? Why not trade at home? So there's a couple of things about it. One, when you're on a prop floor, you're trading the firm's capital. So that is going to mean you get a percentage over time. If you perform better, you're probably going to get a better percentage. That's obvious. But you just get more buying power with experience, right? So that's the big one. You get accustomed to that. It's a lot different from establishing an account on the start. So once you've built to a point where you have a lot of buying power on a prop floor, there's not much incentive for you to want to leave, right? Because you've established yourself. It is harder at the start, but then it's very rewarding at the end of it. And the other aspect of it is a trader. Every trader needs to have internal discipline. That's to be able to say, I have my stop, I'm adhering to it, I have my rules, I'm adhering to it. At a prop floor, you also get external discipline by a set risk system and risk controls. It helps to develop you, but it helps to sustain you as well by having those. Is it a bit of a cheat? Yes, because it means that you didn't have to develop those on your own. Over time, eventually good traders do it, but that's an advantage of a prop floor, is that you do have a risk manager. I've been a risk manager a very long time, and you know, I'm happy. I like talking to traders, give one-on-ones. I used to do it with Arun a little bit, although I found I used to get more out of them than I think you did, to be honest with you.
To be honest with you, I think you're undervaluing the knowledge and stability that you bring. Because keep in mind, you're a manager that's dealt with many traders.
I got stories.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of varying skill levels and their ability and approach to trading on a psychological level. So it helps, and that's kind of what I kind of leaned on some other traders that just started as well. I'm like, if you ever have any questions related to psychology, I think the best person to ask is going to be Neil, because he's got the experience with all of the people that have come through here, at least for the last, 10, 12 years that you've dealt with?
Well, Sean and I had opened our floor in like, what the heck year was it? It was 2005, and then we brought our traders here and merged with the head office floor in 2013. So basically, we've been risk managing since 05, but here since 13. And here's the crazy thing: if we ever did a show where Sean and I just told stories of the different traders we've seen, it would be the entire day, because that's how entertaining it could be. And I'd never say any names. And look, I've made and lost a lot of friends in this business as a risk manager. That's part of life. So some of those stories I wouldn't even enjoy telling. But that's the truth. It's really an advantage to be able to see the journey of a lot of different traders. What I was getting at with Arun is, we'd probably, like once a quarter?
Yeah.
Once a quarter, when I was risk managing the floor instead of doing the show, once a quarter we would sit down and have a talk. Most traders, you're doing your one-on-ones, some daily, some literally all day long you're having to talk to, and then others it's like once a week, some it's once a month. Arun was the only guy. It's like once a quarter we'd sit down and talk for half an hour, and that was pretty much it. Like imagine that, like that's internal discipline already embedded by himself. That's what we're getting at. So not everybody's gonna have that. You want that little bit of a push. Hopefully we help market to the upside. Let's get to 13,000. I think I heard Trader Pratt say something about that number. Apple finally trying to break 163. That's getting close to $1 in the money. Microsoft about to hit the $2 mark. At this point, I see no reason to get out of these trades. We're just running for the wolves. Even Nvidia is starting to get back to the upside. Everything up except for HKD. Brendo.
Rivian just popped up on some volume there. It didn't really do anything, but autonomous driver or autonomous driving, which is a autonomous driving company out in LA or California somewhere, apparently buying 23,000 guys from a whole bunch of companies. Rivian, one of them, GoEV, one of them. So there's a number of the smaller EV companies. So autonomous driving company buying a whole bunch of vehicles, I guess, to test their product on. So that was confirmed from them today. So here goes Rivian now starting to tick to the upside.
So just first things first, I'm going to take a little bit out of Nvidia. The market took some fresh highs, and it's barely moving to the upside. So if I can grab some out at 180, 181 and a half, I'll go ahead and do that. But look, late day news in a rallying market, Rivian, something like this, like I see this, and it's like, how can you not press higher? You're flat on the day. You've survived a wipeout bottom. A wipeout bottom at the open at 33, and then a capitulation again at about 10:30 to try to grind higher, and then you get positive news and you can't break out. I'm a little baffled that, I guess I'm not that baffled. Even like Tesla's going through the high of the day, but you're just not getting any wherewithal to chew through some of these resistance levels on this stock. It's just been going sideways for a while, and every time I come in the morning, I look at Rivian or Lucid, and I'm like, okay, is this the day that we break out on the daily chart? And it never seems to happen. And if it ever tries to get going, like this is what you get. Like it finally breaks a key level that was at 35, and it was an abject disaster when it broke 35. So yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical about it. I feel like you should be, why aren't you taking out 34 on this news and already at 34.20? Like, do I want to punch this late when the market is trying to take out highs and maybe even slowly grinding to do so? So I'm going to stay away from Rivian. I'm talking myself out of this trade. There's too many good longs in the market right now, as opposed, you just can't do it, right? Like I'm not going to do it, not going to do it. Oh, and in the chat, our work chat right now, we usually have Fahad and Lucas do the show do the switching on the show. One member of our IT crew, Rob, is doing the switching, and he just put in the chat, in regards to your trading office that Sean and I opened in 05, you're welcome. And the reason is, one of the IT guys, Rob, has been around even longer than Sean and I have, and he wired our entire trading floor, I'm pretty sure, for a case of beer. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it a sixer? Ooh. Apparently, we only gave him a sixer of Heineken. We were young, and I guess he had pity on us. Like, dude, I owe you. That's you crazy? A sixer? So he helped us to then move to this office as well for only a sixer. Sean and I probably owe you something better than that after all this time. But like, we were young. We wanted to make sure we were saving some funds. That was a lot of work, and we only paid you a sixer. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Oh God, that's really, really bad. Dude, sorry, man. Holy crap. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. Like, we were young. We're trying to save it up so we could build a bankroll. But holy crap, a sixer, that is like, I can tell you what kind of wages those are, but I shouldn't say that on YouTube. Now Rivian's trying to go here. I'm still going to stay away from him. I'm a bit skeptical. It should be doing better than it already is. But you're a good man, Rob. Thank you very much for all of that.
Yeah, Rob
There he
always
is.
puts in work. He's always, well, most of the time he's always around. He's always on call. And man, the amount of work that he puts in, crazy, crazy, crazy. And you also see, what's his name? Mark. Mark's always in here too, doing something on a ladder. I haven't seen him on a ladder in a while though. But Mark, that's because Rob's here. Because Rob's supposed to be on the ladder. But so Rob's here putting in some work. So the only guy who never works? Never. Randy.
Ooh. Wow.
Randy.
Yeah, we know that. Everybody
Randy never works. He just shows up and brings Timbits or something, and he's just sitting around. That's just Randy for you. He loves talking cars. If you ever have him on the show, you know he loves talking cars. I remember one time he just took my seat and just sat down and talked cars with Sean for a bit there. And here we are. It's 3:32. What do we got?
So, sorry, Neo broke, so something is breaking higher. It's like, but here are the list of names that were in that story. It was Rivian, Lucid, Ford, Canoo, GM, and they already had a Tesla fleet. So, I mean, Neo gets the bump. This is exactly why I'm not in the Rivian long. Like, Neo presses higher on that when it wasn't even included and it's not remotely involved in that story. But Rivian makes a late push. That just feels a little trappish to me. Like, exactly, like, where's it even going? The volume is okay. But we're about to hit 13,000 on the NASDAQ. So buying something that is failing at the top, I mean, what if we don't take out 13,000? what if we reverse here? I don't get your ideas on maybe where the ES is at, but just if we don't take out that high, I'd like to be in the money, not going long at the high of the day. Yeah, scratch that. If anything, what I want to do with 15 minutes till the imbalances come is think about where is there a possible short trade. Checks notes. Maybe it'll be in Meta. What's still down today? What had an awful quarter? This morning I made the analogy that what Intel is troubling. What's troubling for Intel is some of the same things that are troubling for Meta. Meta's back at 160 here, so if we fail the top, Meta looks like a pretty solid short going into the close. You have the 160 cover. You could break down at like 50s or 40s. If we fail this high of the day, you could be failing a 160 break, and then you got a pretty good risk to reward. It's already failed a 160 break at least once. Maybe it looks like it did it twice. So count me in Meta. I'm also going to work out of the last of this AMTD trade because, well, quite frankly, even if I think HKD is going to gap down on Monday, I can't hold overnight on AMTD. And I probably wouldn't anyways because I think that's suicide, but your downside risk is too big, right? Like, what if this other thing goes to $700? Like, it's not worth it. So I'll be working out of this. It might not give the home run trade, but that's because HKD is still at $400. I mean, we're determined. We all said, it's every single person here that we asked said it's closing below 420, and every one of us is wrong $6 from now on the ask.
I guess,
So,
is Prad going to be right for the first time ever?
What did Prad say?
He said it's actually, he's got to be on the opposite side, so it's going to be up.
He said it was closing above. I thought we all said below.
No, except for him.
Oh.
He's like, Prad might be right for the first time in a while.
It's at 415. 400.
He might be right. It's surprising to everybody. Prad might be right. Oh,
Where
no.
is the guy?
Huh? He's
not
somewhere.
even here. He gone.
He's gone. Okay.
It's a long weekend. By the way, it's a long
yeah.
weekend. Is it a long weekend in the States too? No, it's not.
It might be a bank holiday. I don't know.
It might be a bank holiday on Monday,
Yeah.
but either way, it's a long weekend here in Canada, and it's Caravana weekend, or Caribbean Carnival, whatever the heck they call it. It's Caravana. So it's a big weekend here in the GTA, north of the border. So that's why a lot of the traders take time off this week. My train this morning was pretty much empty. But yeah, Prad could be right about it. I think it was a bit tongue-in-cheek that you said for the first time. That's not very nice, Arun. I know you guys have like one of those fun like father-son relationships or older brother. I know, I'm messing with you.
Whoa. Let's not
I'm
go
just
there.
messing with you.
Let's not go there.
I'm doing the math in my head. It's possible. I mean, I could be his dad. I'm that old. I could be. I am literally that old. I could be his dad.
Well, Prad's gone back to his own father, so we'll just leave it be. He's gone. He's on the train back home, I believe, right now. Actually, you know what? Maybe. He's probably sleeping on the train right now. Let's talk about imbalances, because imbalances are coming up soon. 350. You have about 14 minutes left before imbalances show up. What are they? Why do they matter? Today, more so than other days, it's going to make a difference because it's the end of the month. So you're going to see these imbalances come in a little bit larger than what you're used to. It's going to be a little bit more interesting. It's July 2. The market's been up. It's up 2% right now, NASDAQ. So could be some interesting moves in the NASDAQ on the imbalances at 350. Why do they matter? Okay, the way it's set up here in our imbalance locator is you get a symbol with a direction and a number of shares that need to be traded in that direction. So at 350, New York sends all of this information out to anyone who can receive, who has the ability to receive that data. Most brokers have it. You just got to find out where and how they've displayed it. In our system, it's under the imbalance locator. So anyone from our office is watching and you're new, pull up the imbalance locator, populate it. You're going to get something like this. You're going to have the symbol, the direction, and the size. Now, this should actually be a little different. I actually need a different column in there. And I like to put in something called pair value. Pair value allows it to tell me how many shares have already been matched. These imbalances essentially mean some people, everyone who wants to trade in this stock are sending certain number of shares with an on-close order tag, right? There's going to be buy on close, sell on close, whatever. You net them out, and the imbalance is the difference between the two. So there's going to be more buyers than sellers or whatnot. Why does this matter? This matters because towards the end of the day, especially after 355, it puts pressure on the stock because those shares need to be traded. As usually what happens is the imbalances come at 350. They kind of, just flutter around for a bit, and then 355, when the floor interest gets injected into the imbalance locator, it tends to offset a lot of the interest that you initially saw at 350. So these imbalances tend to disappear. But on abnormally large days, rebalance days, right? Third Fridays of every quarter, that's a rebalance day. End of the month, beginning of the month, you could see some unusually large action here in terms of volume and imbalance action just because it's the end of the month. Some people may be making adjustments to their portfolios, some funds, whatever. They've had a great month, so they're just dumping some at the end, however they want to go about it. This is why it matters, because it puts pressure on the name towards the end of the day. It only really comes into play after 355. So if we have a large enough imbalance, right now, these are some information. This information is from earlier in the day. So we haven't gotten the update just yet, but at 350, once you get the update, if it's large enough to matter, so something like SIGA that's done 44 million shares, and you see what the level 2 looks like.
It's 17? Yes.
Yeah, it's a 17. So if you have a large imbalance on SIGA, let's just say it's chewed through 44 million shares. Let's just say the imbalance is like 10 million shares. That's somewhat large on the day, right? That's more than just underneath a quarter of its volume. So it's going to be something that's going to, and it can't handle 10 million shares. This level 2 cannot handle 10 million shares that need to be traded. So definitely keep an eye on those types of names that if they pop up, we'll keep you guys posted on what's the largest one when it does come out. But given the way the market's moving, somebody in the chat's putting 400 million shares, or not 400 million shares, $400 million worth of amounts to the buy side. That's the first look, I guess, coming from Financial Juice, from the Financial Juice Twitter, which they're good at posting the pre-look imbalances as well. So it looks like it's going to be a buy side imbalance, but again, it's a pre-look, so that doesn't guarantee anything, absolutely nothing. So we'll just keep an eye on this. At 350, we'll know exactly what the number is or what direction is going to come out. And if it's large enough and the stock is going to get, it's going to be influenced by it, we'll definitely keep an eye on that stock.
So, look, this is why right here in this chart, like when I talked about being a little bit conservative and being too much like a Floyd Mayweather style trader where you're playing defensive, if you're short at the low like we were on SIGA, that you don't want to get cute or get greedy and that you have to take your profit. And yes, we left some on the table with it, but it had already made 2 strong down moves. We'd already identified that 13 level as support and then see what happens. Now, I didn't go long off here because quite frankly, I didn't really like the long. I only wanted to stick to one direction in the way of the news, but it comes all the way back into 17 even. So that's an easy way to turn a winning trade into a losing trade. You got to be able to play the momentum, but that sometimes understands that if you've shorted at the bottom or near it into a support level, you've got to find a way to take your profit. You can't get too greedy about it. That'll burn you almost every single time. So glad we're able to get out there. SIGA, if someone caught the law, that's pretty exciting. What a crazy stock this has been. I mean, it's just, like every time I look at this thing, every single day, I just kind of wish that we had something like this almost all the time. And not monkeypox in general, but a lot of times when you get these smaller cap names that give you those big presses and the big moves, it'll just be like one and done, then it'll consolidate, and a few days later, maybe you'll get a secondary push. This just keeps on trending, kept on trending to the upside and had explosive moves time and time again. I mean, I remember when Veru was trying to be like this, and then Fahad took over as CEO, and then things are a little bit different now with the company. But SIGA's been giving you these chances almost every single day. Under 9 minutes to the imbalances. I should have just taken it all out in Nvidia. We just got to 13,000 on the NASDAQ, and then this candle just happened. So, you know what, forget about it. I don't even want to be in Nvidia anymore. What we were fearing, at least what I was fearing, was some of these longs, and the one working the least here, we'd reject 13,000. I'd want to go into some shorts, think about where we're trailing them out. Microsoft's not in as much trouble. This is the pullback in Apple. I'm going to trail it to like 75s or so. Remember, every single day at this time, what I also say is I like to have trailing stops in going into 350 regardless. But because of that 13,000 level, I want to take out anything that is not too deep in the money. Microsoft is definitely strong. I want to hold on to Microsoft because I got it off VWAP. And the mistake here is, and why I'm holding on to it for dear life, is I didn't get that reload in. So I cannot be aggressive with this trade in sort of like I would have normally been taking out 80s and taking out 81s. I was never able to get the position that I wanted in Microsoft, but I'm going to give this one more room here. You just got to be careful to not give it all back. About 5 minutes, 7 minutes, I think, until those imbalances come out. I keep checking over here. HKD, Prad, you got it, buddy. 420 is on the bid. 420, 420 by 427, $7 spread. I'm now flat on the AMTD trade. It's been a solid one, by the way, and it's been low stress, and it's on the New York stock. I don't know why I keep getting that wrong because it's 4 digits. but it's been I'd say it's been a relatively stress-free trade. I missed one shot. That's when Sega went nuts to short it again at 2. But it's never threatened me too much. It hasn't really capitulated because obviously you've seen HKD still hold up strong, and I can just work out of the rest of this here. My last entries were lower, but my blended price was about 94s. My last entry was at 91, so this trade is now flat, and I will now get out of it, Brendo.
There was a spike there, guys, on TSM, Taiwan Semi. I was actually on the buy side, though, back to the upside. It's flat on the day. On a report that says the U.S. is pushing further to expand its China chip ban regulations. So Taiwan Semi, obviously, from that region. So some volume on TSM.
Yeah, Taiwan Semiconductor making a move. Most chips are making a move.
Be good for Intel.
The thing, okay, going back to the imbalances, I actually want to talk about how can we use these imbalances for our own trades. A perfect example is going to be what I've got, Nike, right? I've got Nike long up at $1.43. I've cashed them out already. What am I going to do with Nike? Well, the reason I'm holding on is I'm not holding on just for the sake of holding on. I want to see what these imbalances bring to Nike. If Nike has a buy-side imbalance, you know there's going to be some upside pressure. It's at 115 right now. Futures market going back towards its highs. And if Nike can get going with a buy-side imbalance, I'd love to carry this because I know that there's going to be more interest coming in after 350 that's going to help the stock get through 115 and continue to the upside. So that's the whole play here. At this point, when you're this close to the imbalances coming out, you're looking for Nike to be a buy imbalance. If Nike is not a buy imbalance, or even if it's just a tiny sell, it doesn't matter. But if it's not a buy imbalance in a big way, then it's time to, you're not going to get any more help from any sort of end of day activity. So then it's time to start taking some profit. But for the time being, I just want to see what Nike brings to the table in terms of imbalances. You're saying it's $500,000 to buy at the, we'll see. We'll see when the imbalances are released, and I have it filtered. So the way I have it is we have the raw data here, and then I can always filter it, and I'll have Nike pop in here right at the end. So we'll see what Nike brings to the table at 350. We're about 5 minutes out from seeing what Nike's imbalance is going to be. Disney going up, futures market going up, Nike going up, everything's going up. So maybe that 400 million buy is going to be a buy, and it makes sense. We're up 2% on the day, so it might be a nice little buy here towards the end of the day, Neil.
I just covered Nvidia when Brendan dropped that news. Oh yes, in the chat someone was saying that buy Intel. Well, yeah, that's good for Intel. It made a little bit of a bump up, but AMD pressing higher as well. I mean, any of the U.S. chip makers make some sense, although from a logical standpoint, it probably makes more sense for Intel technically than it does for AMD. But either way, still a strong move. AMD broke out the high. I'm going to cancel that order. It looks like I'm not going to be able to catch it off that level. I don't want to take breaks at the top, below 13,000. And we're too tight to the imbalances to want to enter, because if a sell imbalance comes into the market, then you're getting burned. But the logic was dead on. When Brendan dropped that news, if you were on an Intel level 2 when Brendan dropped that news, there's a free 20 cents. You probably could have had this at least at 05 to 10s. AMD, if you were sitting there looking for the high break, you absolutely got that. What happened to me? I had just done this. And then literally the next candle is when the news drops, and I'm out of Nvidia. We do have some longs that are still working, and yep, I'll show it to you. Brad is 100%. He's got this one. It's pretty much a mortal lock that we're going to close above 420. Not only that,
It's at 500 now.
we're going to close at maybe close at the high of the day. We touched $475 on HKD. So maybe it is going to 500. By the way, it's weird because before we made that bet that it would close lower, I actually thought that the high back here was going to be 517. So if it touches that price, I mean, I was right and wrong, I guess. If that counts for anything, it doesn't. It actually is meaningless. Your last call is the one that matters. But wow, this stock is unbelievable. And remember I said when it got here, there were people that were short at 440, 450 in front of 500, that the long grid holds here at 350. They're getting scared. Yeah, well, that's what happens when they get scared on a Friday, 15 minutes before the close, Brendo.
Not the only one, guys, at high of day. Here is Tesla, now up, well, it was 2 seconds ago, 6% on the session. Elon this morning, if you missed it, quietly came out and said that commodity prices for Tesla are dropping slightly. So what a day for Tesla.
Dropping slightly. Well, this stock is mooning to the upside. Basically, the bears are getting absolutely crushed today. I just checked to make sure it's on the bull. Tony is in the house behind me. There he is. You can see Tony. What's up, Tony? You're on camera. That is perfect placement, Tony. Just embed yourself right there. Don't even move. Now you can't move. By the way, you know this. Like you have to sit there the whole time,
yeah.
right until the end of the show. So you're on the two shot here. That's what it's all about. I know I'm pretty sure you might be ringing the bell there. Hopefully in about 10 minutes. But what a move by Tesla. It shoot through 85, which I suppose now that I think about it, I said 85 could be resistance. It tied up here a little bit, then broke out from that price. So pretty good level. Obviously worth a break. I decided to stick with what I already had to the long side. Work out of a couple and take profit, but Tesla's going to 900. It does seem like 13,000. Bye-bye. We're gone. Yeah. So I'm definitely holding these longs through 350. Like a lot of times I might be thinking about getting out. Nah, not when we're breaking out the high here. This is what needed to happen. Last time after the Fed raised rates, we made some tops. It was great for a day, and then the second day, man, the next week, terrible, and the next month, the next couple of weeks, usually terrible. This is much stronger to the upside. This is the second time I said this today. A very experienced trader begins with a Y, you know who he is, was actually telling me, I was on the train, we were going back and forth on just sort of texting, and he was saying that this move, momentum-wise, is much more bullish than the last two times that we made a new high before taking a low. So, he still agreed that we're still in a bear market, but this was the more convincing bounce. It doesn't mean that we're going to all-time highs or anything ridiculous. We're not. But it can mean that we actually sustain a second-level move to the upside. I want to make sure, with only 15 seconds left, that when the imbalances come out, we get them to you here. So in about 10 seconds or so, we'll see what they are. I have trailing stops on Microsoft and Apple. Otherwise, I want to hold them for as far as they might go. We'll get these imbalances in a couple seconds. Come on to the buy side, please.
Buy, yeah. Definitely a buy.
Oh, it's got to be a buy. We pressed higher. I see BAC's 2 million. Ford was up there. Ford's a sell at 1.5. Gap 1.3 million a buy. Not that convincing. I'm not really seeing the big cap names in here.
A weak buy.
AAL's to a sell, like American Airlines to sell. Like, where's the big cap? Microsoft is 900,000 to the buy side, so that's fine. I'm actually holding that one. Google's 800,000 to the buy side. Not even seeing Apple in here unless I passed it already. Not a gigantic number, not huge numbers, by the way. Like, on an end of the month, oh, what the hell? Did I miss Intel at the top? Intel 4 million to buy? For the love of...
I think that just popped in.
Oh, by the way, just so you guys know, Intel pairs off every single time. So, like, that buy imbalance... I have yet to see Intel not pair off by the time we get to 358. So it's 4 million to buy. There's a decent part of me that just wants to be shorted off the high of the day. However, there was that news about TSM that Brennan brought. That's the only reason I will not short this off the high. But then watch it absolutely work. And when I say by pair off, like the reason imbalances come in that Aruno has already talked about is so they can be paired off. You publicize it so people with large order flow can see that there's a buy imbalance and dump their sells into it so that you have less volatility going into that closing print. Intel's down 8%, terrible quarter. I can see sellers coming in there, and at 355, I'd expect that pairs off some. At 358, I expect that bid to be gone. Thank you guys for the super chats in there. Stephen Ford with a super chat, warn them not to short Tesla, they'll die. I'm not sure who them is, or
if you're shorting that trend, you deserve.
Yeah, you kind of deserve it.
You kind of deserve what's coming to you.
Okay, so this is like the short hat of me came in here. If this was a different time of day, see that last move in here? Like old Neil would short this. Like that one, if this was in the middle of the day, old Neil would see that move into 95 and then short it off of 95. Like I used to make that play. And what I've sort of found is when something goes parabolic like this, you never want to take the first entry obviously short. And that's one thing I've learned to do. That actually was working oddly enough, that was working in the bull market. In the bear market, that just, for whatever reason, you don't see it work anymore. So you stay away from those. I wouldn't short this. I mean, it wouldn't matter how much I liked it. I wouldn't short it at this time no matter what. Next week is a different story. If I see 900, 99.90, 99.90, whatever, I'll lose like 50 cents or $1 on that trade and take a shot and then probably just reverse into the long at 900 if we see it next week. I'm down with that. But I think you're right. I don't think you want to be trying this at the high, not with the market that we're seeing. We could still fail 13,000, by the way. We keep teetering back and forth. Even then, Tesla's kind of doing its own thing. Since we have not broken out the high in the futures, Tesla's gone like, what, 15 bucks? So like read into that what you want. At this point, I'm just going to tighten up, understand. We just put a wick off top there. Yeah, this is me wanting to get out of Microsoft. Like, yeah, I probably gave it a little bit too far there. Microsoft and Apple both come out. That's the rejection off of 13,000. So we definitely gave some up there on the 279 long on Microsoft. I'm going to check back in on Tesla just because you saw what just happened. I just trailed out of Microsoft and Apple, and we just failed 13,000. What's that Tesla short giving you? $1.50? And what's your risk if it breaks 95? $5? Yeah, that's not really a good short at all. So you're right about that. Some earnings to get to for next week there, Brendan, as we had an action-packed week of earnings here.
Yeah, we'll show you the board for Monday coming up here. Again, I'll reiterate, make sure you check out the site, the page, the YouTube page on Sunday, guys. Brand new week ahead video coming Sunday morning that will prep you in entirely for next week, but that's Monday morning.
All right.
I owe you for sure. I'm just talking to Rob there. Like, it's
Rob's trying to get the rest of his beer.
no, it's just to be honest. Like, I really, it's so long ago. I really don't remember, and I feel bad if all we did is like give him a six or a beer for wiring the entire office. Look, the big earnings definitely did come this week, but it's not done just yet. I was gonna go on about earnings more. You're not gonna believe this, everybody. This is actually pretty weird. So HKD just pulled back and halted to the downside. But here's the best thing about it. When you halt in the last 10 minutes, you don't open till 4 o'clock. And the halt was at 4:21. So that means technically
He's still right.
Pratt is still right. It fails to get to 500, halts to the downside, and Pratt is still going to be right because it will be above 420.
No, but
it can't open back up until 4 o'clock.
Yeah, but that's the official closing price, right?
Oh, you're right.
The final print is going to matter.
The final print is where it opens.
Exactly.
So
that's
Pratt
right.
can still be wrong.
Yeah, Pratt can still
so
be
the
right.
like the way
Yeah,
it's
Pratt can
halting to
still
the
be wrong.
downside, as long as it opens below 420 on the official closing price, it can definitely still be to the downside. What I'm keeping a close eye on is, remember, I was going to use the Nike imbalance to determine how I'm going to manage the rest of my position. Well, Nike came out with the buy side imbalance. It's pairing off now. Their 900,000 has already been paired. They still got about 300,000 left. It looks like it's stalling out around these 10s. So I think, you know what? Let's just work our exits and see if we can't get some 10s and 11s and all that stuff out, and we'll just walk away. At this point, there's nothing else to do, right? Just cash out what you possibly can and then move on and see if we can get a different trade, set some trades up. Brendan's got the list of names that we're going to pay attention to next week, but the way this market is, what are you guys trading?
Brankles, what?
But anyways, we'll figure stuff out for next week, because at this point, the day's done, right? Yeah, market's coming off, 13,000 coming off, but at the same time, the day's not done. There's a few minutes left before the day closes out. HKD still has to open, and we need to know whether Pratt's right or wrong, because it's a matter of life and death at this point, because it'll be something monumental if he ends up being right. So we'll see how that one goes. The final opening price of HKD, above or below 420? Put in your thoughts, guys. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, I just want to see. I'm not betting against. I'm not hoping that Pratt is wrong. Actually, to me, it's just all entertainment. I want to go to Uber quick second because they're one of the ones that report next week if I can. There's still like 3.5 minutes to go. Really, now my daily chart wants to start failing me right here when it was only 2 minutes. When we keep talking about risk to reward and plays that can be pretty big, Uber's a dog. It's the IPO that's lost the most actual money as a business in the last 20 years that I can think of. And if you can think of something that's lost more money than them in real terms, that IPO in the last 20 years, then quite frankly, I don't believe you. It's these guys. If there's something that has big downside risk, I'd be watching out for Uber. It also has this $20 level, so I'll be glued to this when they report. Pins, of course, anything in that space should be pretty big as well. But yeah, right now it is all about HKD for me. The market did reject that high, so we don't get to actually close on the high of the day. But that's a distinction without a difference. It's still a pretty strong rally. We gave up 13,000. Tesla, by the way, I'll do this because I'm not going away from my HKD chart. If you shorted it, welcome to $3, $3.50. Yeah, the pullback's pretty deep in the market, but that Tesla short off the high of the day, not exactly paying you out very much. Would have worked, but not really paying you at all that much here. 2.5 minutes to go. Shout out to Sean. If you guys are tuning in late or wondering where Sean is, Arun filling in today and Monday. Sean's getting a long weekend. It is a holiday Monday in Canada where we are. That's why a lot of people take some time off for this last weekend before back to school, because then it's this and then Labor Day. So he'll be back on Tuesday. Arun doing a fantastic job filling in for him. I know he's sipping a cold one, but he's also preparing for that softball tournament that they're doing. Big one he's coaching for. So hopefully the Mariners will prevail in that one. HKD's indicated open, which I don't know if this means anything. I've never really looked at the indicated open when we're halt this late in the day. It's actually to the upside at 455.
Oh, damn.
So right now it looks like it's saying it's going to open well above that 420 that we are currently sitting in. Either way, should be exciting to watch, guys. What an unbelievable one. There's a few other ones out there that were moving. I see people talking about that PGY. I don't mind. We got a couple of minutes here. I'll take a look. Yeah, even this closes. It's gonna close near the highs of the day, right? There was what was the other one? It was the IPO today was MGAM, I want to say. Yeah, MGAM. I want to see where that one is closing. Near the high of the day as well. Like, give me a break. Like, the high is 1250. It's going to close at 1150. That's pretty amazing because it's not often where you don't break the top on these types of names and then there isn't aggressive selling, let alone on a Friday where holding the long, you're holding it over a weekend. Apparently, people aren't afraid to hold these things over the weekend. Me, I would definitely be locking in profit if I was long any one of these names. No question about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the market's still trying to figure out what it wants to do. Obviously, 13,000 is off the table right now, but hey, there's still 90 seconds, or 60 seconds left, and we've seen some crazy stuff happen at the end, right at the end. So we'll see how this one goes. But imbalances are done. I had an accidental move there on Nike, but we're out. We took a 2-cent hit there on Nike, but we're done. We're done. We had a good day. We'll call it a day. Don't waste any more money. We'll see how this one goes as we get to the final 30 seconds there, Neil.
There we go. Only 30 seconds left. It's a little bit late. Alvin White asked any advice for people having a difficult time getting through their own bias on the market. That's a really good question. Let me think about that one. Ask me again, or maybe DM me or something. Like, that's a great question, and it's not an easy one to answer. So right at the close, I don't want to try and give you a terrible answer and butcher it. So just DM me. I think that's a good one. Tony is on the bell, dropping the countdown here. It is Friday. Enjoy your weekends, obviously. Let's see where HKD opens up in 3, 2, and 1. Where's the print? Okay, it didn't open.
It's not open yet?
Okay, so Prad wins because I am usually, so when the stock halts at this time of day, I'm not making it up. Like we all know this. Like it should open back up unless it's news based. It's supposed to open up at 4, and that acts as the final print. HKD is still halted. This is just another reason why you take profit because if they don't open this stock,
there you go. What is it?
Prad. Sorry, 400.
Brad lost.
Well.
There you go. Thanks for playing, Prad.
I was rooting for you. Thanks for playing, Prad. 400. It actually ends up going to the downside there on the reopen. Look, at the end of the day, the stock closed at 180 bucks yesterday. I don't think anybody this long is crying about that one, but looks like we're right. It closed below 420. How did the markets end up there, Brendo?
Great day, great week. Second, 2 in a row for both the S&P and the NASDAQ back to the upside. So more than 4% for both NASDAQ and S&P, 1.5, 1.17, 1.8 there for the NASDAQ today. So pretty impressive coming off of the Fed on Wednesday. We get all the biggest of the big earnings. There's a ton. I just looked through the list for next week. There's still a ton of earnings to come, guys. So lots of opportunities still.
Oh, you're right. Like, I mean, Pinterest earnings, Uber is going to be pretty big. I think you have a couple of the semis still to go that'll be pretty big. Yeah, so we're not done yet. It's just that you had the mother of all weeks getting some of the big caps, and that's what it's all about. We tend to focus on those. This is that time where we do like the rundown of everybody, but I look over and it's like, Pratt, I don't know where the heck he is. Long weekend's
Greg's
already
gone.
started.
I think
Greg is gone.
Probably went golfing.
Luca's still. See, that's the thing. Luca's
gone.
still in his seat. He's doing a fantastic job. Both guys filling in admirably. Usually Maggie will come out and make an appearance. She gone as well. We had Rob helping. We had Rob helping Fahad on the 1s and 2s. He left as well. I see Ian's at least still in the house, but Fahad's there doing a fantastic job. Lucas, I think he might be back next week, but he's taking some time away, so Fahad has been doing a great job. He's talking a lot of smack, but truthfully, Fahad does a great job making us look good, making us sound good, giving you guys a fantastic show. Sean will be back on Tuesday. Arun doing an amazing job filling in as always. Brendan essentially spoon-fed everybody that long on the chip names there that I didn't take. And the Sega trade as well, because Sega was absolutely fantastic. I think that was a good one when it came to the downside. It still flushed through. Thank you guys so much. As always, have a fantastic weekend. We will be back on Monday at 8:30 as always. tradertv.live. See you next week.